Seema Dwivedi ji, please बताइए.
So just a second. If it's okay with you and the committee, can I put the motion in the chat box?
Yeah, absolutely. Seema ji, please.
Yeah. So you can take that account.
Ji and Mansukh Mandavya. Mr.
It is the
Tendulkar.
same motion. You can take that into account. Thank you, sir.
AC. Mr. Venugopal, what point are you raising?
To raise a motion.
Yes, but you weren't recognized, right?
You didn't. Actually, I had some network.
I think your voice is still lagging. Your network is a little distorted right now. Try switching to other kind of data. Turn off your video. Is it just me or Karan? His network is lagging. Okay. ठीक है. So we have motion from Mansukh Mandavya, Seema Dwivedi, and Vinay Tendulkar. The motion is to discuss the PPP model in healthcare and allied sectors. Total time period is 120 seconds. Individual time period, total time, all three of you. Just give me a sec. Yes, members willing to support this motion, please raise your hand. No need to give me a thumbs up. Please raise your hand. Members against? Okay. All of you put your hands down. With 18 votes in favor, this motion passes. Now we are in a short-term discussion now, discussing the PPP model in healthcare and allied sectors. All three of you, would you like to go first, or as and when I recognize you? First, Mansukh Mandavya, would you like to go first? Mr. Mandavya, would you like to go first? Mr. Mansukh Mandavya. All right. Seema Dwivedi ji, would you like to?
Yes, I would like to go first.
All right. Vinay Tendulkar ji, are you here?
Yes,
would
sir.
You like to go second?
Yes, I would like to go second.
All right. Mansukh Mandavya is not responding, so we'll start recognizing other members. Karan, could you please recognize other members? You can recognize 8 more members. Recognize Sharad Pawar first, and then recognize anyone else.
Okay. Mansukh Mandavya hasn't responded.
Yeah,
right?
he hasn't.
So the first speaker will be?
The first speaker will be Seema Dwivedi. Second speaker is your Sharad Pawar.
Okay.
Yeah. So 7 more speakers you can recognize.
Actually, sir, sorry for interrupting. I actually was raising my hand for another issue, like a respected leader of opposition who was not able to put forth his motion. It was regarding problems with the current PPP policy and what solutions we can bring forth.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to raise a motion from our opposition side. regarding that.
All right. Is it okay with you that once we are done with this motion,
Yes,
we
definitely.
proceed to your motion?
Yes, yes.
We'll try to expedite this as much as possible. Do you want to speak in this session? No? Okay. Okay. So you have got two
Yeah.
members, Karan. You can recognize it.
Right. So as the third speaker,
Sorry,
we
sir,
have
I got disconnected. I got disconnected due to some
So we have
technical issues. I rejoined
Who's
and
the
I,
third speaker?
perfect.
am I
You-
the third speaker, sir?
Want to be the third speaker?
I would be okay with speaking
Okay.
in that
Okay,
position.
please
Yeah.
take a note and move on.
Narayan Rane. When I MJ Akbar, Indu Bala Goswami, Narasimha Rao, Hardeep Singh Puri, Mallikarjun Kharge, Prakash Javadekar, Mahesh Jethmalani. Okay, we have three speakers left. I'm going to give it to Nirmala Sitharaman because they didn't get a chance to speak in the last motion yesterday. We'll go with Piyush Goyal and KC Venugopal. Right. So I'll put the order in the chat box. So we are done with the recognition. You can start.
Sir, point of parliamentary inquiry.
Yes, Mr. Puri.
Sir, I guess you have recognized more speakers than the time permits
Yes.
us to.
Sir, we had proposed a motion for 10 speakers.
Okay. So anybody after 10 wouldn't be taken up for this session. In case extension comes up, then we'll take. Okay. Karan, just take 10.
Yeah, understood.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, this is the final list then. Right. So we can have Seema Dwivedi's speech now. Just a second. Narayan Rane, what point?
I'm sorry, sir, that was in regards to the speaker thing. I'm sorry.
Okay. Nirmala Sitharaman,
Point of parliamentary.
go ahead.
So since the fact that I wasn't recognized for a speech yesterday and we have to go by recognition, so I have been recognized because there are people who have opportunity to speak have been recognized in the 10 speakers yesterday. So can
Sir, I
I be recognized?
understand that, but it also is true that you haven't been raising your hand promptly in any of the sessions, right?
No, sir. For this session, I was raising my hand from the beginning.
So then, according to what I saw, I was recognizing speakers. Ideally, let's have an extension motion because we have at least 6
Karan,
members
let's
who wanted.
give it to him because yesterday what happened was that he raised a motion himself and he didn't get an opportunity to speak.
Okay.
So let's just allow him.
Okay, sir.
Make him the last speaker. Not a problem.
Okay, sir. Fair.
So point of parliamentary inquiry.
जी बताइए.
So yesterday our motion was passed regarding the need of framework and quasi-judicial bodies for effective dispute resolution, but that hasn't been discussed in the legislative business.
That motion was passed.
Yes, it was passed.
Okay, I'll have to see whether or not it was passed. Give me some time, I'll get back.
Oh, sure, no problem. Thank you.
Or what you can do is after this, you can propose it again.
Okay, no problem.
We'll be able to accommodate. We have a lot of time today, so don't worry.
No problem, no problem. Thank you.
Karan, please take over.
Yes, sir. Me, sir, just to confirm, Nirmala Sitharaman will be after Mallikarjun Kharge, right?
Okay. हाँ ठीक है. चलेगा.
Okay. Yes, Seema Dwivedi.
Thank you, Chair. The 2017 National Health Policy aims to make the health sector in India robust, economically affordable, and accessible. The Health and Family Welfare Division gives advice and policy guidance to key stakeholders involved in public health development and management. It also collaborates research organizations, development partners, and eminent experts to advance the discussion towards making long-term impacts on policy approaches for the health sector. Some of the projects which have been mentioned earlier are undertaken. Yashaswini Health Scheme in Karnataka, Arogya Raksha Scheme in Andhra Pradesh, Rajiv Gandhi Super Speciality Hospital in Karnataka, Telemedical Initiative by Narayan Hridayalaya in Karnataka, the Uttaranchal Mobile Hospital and Research Center. The main reason to establish these schemes is to give special health care at low cost to the people below poverty line. The government has many ongoing efforts of developing models of urban primary health care, providing support to states in upgradation of district hospitals to medical schools through the PPP model. And the installing of integrative health policy aims to bring best practices of modern medicine, comprehensive medicine, comprehensive healthcare to an individual and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Would you like to take any questions?
Yes, sure.
Right. Members wishing to ask questions to Seema Dwivedi. We'll have Mallikarjun Kharge.
सर मैडम आपने नेशनल हेल्थ पॉलिसी की बात करी बट इट इज लेकिन दिक्कत ये है कि वो सिर्फ एम ही रह गया गवर्नमेंट का क्योंकि 2017 में इनफैक्ट मॉर्टैलिटी रेट जो है इंडिया मॉर्टैलिटी रेट जो है वो एम किया गया था 28 करने का बाय 2019 हाउएवर इट वाज 30 according to data in 2019 so how do you sir so don't you think that the government has absolutely failed on this front and in
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just missed your point. I think some net issue was there. Could you just repeat your question?
My question was that 2017 की health policy जिसका आपने national health policy जिसका आपने mention किया उसमें clearly लिखा गया था कि 2019 तक आप infant mortality rate इंडिया में 28 तक लाएंगे. However, in 2019, the infant mortality rate was noticed to be 30 according to the data. So, don't you think that it is a failure in part of the government?
I think with regards to infant mortality, there has been considerable improvement in the medical services and certain regions where, suppose in the rural areas where medical services can't be reached, means they have not reached in certain areas. So the government is trying its best to curb the infant mortality rate. So I think when it comes to the target here, it's not very it doesn't have a very big gap as such ki if it is 28 it's not like
Okay.
35 ho gaya hai, it's like it's 30. So we are aiming towards 28 but due to certain reasons we couldn't, but we are trying our best to take into account. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker is Vinay Tendulkar.
Sir, free to follow up on this.
Not really, sir. Not really.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Oh. Honorable Chair, I would like to bring to your notice the following. India has a huge shortage of doctors, nurses, and paramedics. We do not meet the minimum WHO recommendation on doctor-patient ratio. While WHO recommends one doctor for every 1,000 people, India stands at 1:1,445. PPP will bring in resources the government needs to make healthcare available as well as create a sustainable long-term model. It can improve the healthcare system by pooling in the expertise and finances of the private sector with the access and subsidies of the public sector. Starting with smaller projects and driving success for the same can help bring credibility and get buy-in from all stakeholders. To address the shortage of qualified doctors and bridge gaps in medical education, the Niti Aayog has come out with a public-private partnership model to link new or existing private medical college with functional district hospital to augment medical seats. Rajiv Gandhi Super Speciality Hospital is a perfect example of the successful implementation of PPP models. Local authorities, often cash strapped, are looking for PPTs to allow them to provide health facilities that they find unaffordable. As with many sub-national PPPs, they utilize land available to them to develop a partnership with the private sector that they expect to benefit their citizens. Technological improvements have had significant impact on healthcare with increased use of outpatient day operations not involving an inpatient stay. The National Rural Health Mission calls for a holistic approach to health development supported by relevant human resource capacities, convergencies, integration, and public-private partnerships. For example, the Emergency Ambulance Services Scheme in Tamil Nadu. The scheme provides an opportunity for promoting equity, serving under the privileged, and empowering communities in a sustainable manner. India is striving to achieve the Millennium Development Goals and expectation to attain various targets are variable.
Thank you, sir. Members wishing to ask Vinay Tendulkar questions. Seeing none, we'll move on to Mansukh Mandal.
So I have a point of a parliamentary inquiry in the chat box. I've put it there.
I can't see it. Just tell me.
Could Shri Mallikarjun Kharge ji please mention which year's data did he quote when he asked the question to Srimati Seema Dwivedi ji?
Okay, he'll do it via the chat then.
Okay, yeah. Please.
And so that's not a point of parliamentary inquiry. That's a point of personal privilege.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Hardeep ji, don't worry about that. I have taken that
Sir,
anomaly into account.
please don't
and I will
speak
be
out of
addressing it
order,
in my
sir.
speech.
Sir. Yeah, Mansukh Mandal will have your speech.
So, good morning, Chair. Good morning to all of the Rajya Sabha members. Since the past 3 years, health sector has been out in the fore as the most important of all issues in India. In apocalyptic situations like the COVID-19, we cannot rely on just the capabilities of either the government or the private sector. And now it is going to be monkeypox. I'm not saying that it will like infiltrate the country, but there are at least 4 to 5 recent cases of monkeypox in the country also, and we should be prepared for that eventuality as well. And to better manage risk and facilitate efficient measures, we have to opt for public-private partnership models. India, despite its attempt, has yet to achieve a lot in health sector in terms of health services accessibility, infrastructure or hospitals, equipment, medical tourism, labors, etc. Affordability and accessibility are two major concerns in India, and we wish to tackle it through the PPP model. National health policy has since 2017 and on, rec- on record recognized the presence of large private sector, and it would be foolish if we do not utilize them. If we start with medical empanelment, respected chair, I would like to tell that it follows the BOT structure. Wider accessibility is provided under it, and it tackles employment, specialization, affordability through the different schemes such as Pradhan Mantri Arogya Yojana and central health, uh, central government health scheme. Medical tourism is also being boosted by PPP in India. It is currently valued at 1 billion USD with a growth rate of 21.1%. Medical tourism is our way into the better flow of foreign direct investment. Infrastructure has been boosted by faster building of hospitals and healthcare facilities, availability of medicines and equipments. Vaccination as a benchmark of successful PPP model, I would like to present it before the chair. PPP is the bedrock for healthcare services for many other nations, and if we follow their example, I would like to cite the examples of USA, Middle Eastern countries, and Europe. I would like to conclude with a suggestion of including health in the concurrent list as recommended by NK Singh, chairman of 15th Finance Commission. Also, regarding the questions taken up by my eminent Manikaljur Kharge sir, I would like to say that as per the official records, the infant mortality rate for India in 2019 was 30.924 deaths per 100 lives birth, a 3.36 decline from 2018. Subsequently, it was 3.48% decline from 2019 as the deaths became 29.848. Then 3.61% decline from 2020 as 28.771 deaths per 1,000 lives, and 3.74% decline from 2021 as the current mortality rate stands at
Conclude, sir.
27.695 deaths per 1,000 lives. So, yeah, in conclusion, I would like to say that the government is constantly in progress towards a better healthcare sector in India, and PPP is going to be our super motorized engine towards entering into that world where the nation's health line would not be endangered by such vitalities. Thank you.
Sir, just a request. I understand that you're answering a question or a concern put up by a member and you're making an additional point, but you also need to know that once the time has lapsed, after a point, nothing goes on the record. So just try to be more concise with what you're saying and address it earlier in your speeches if you want, right? We move on to questions. Members wishing to ask questions. Yes, Mallikarjun Kharge.
Thank you, sir. Sir, मिस्टर मनसुख मांडविया ने यूरोप का एग्जांपल दिया, अमेरिका का एग्जांपल दिया. प्रॉब्लली वहां पे हमारे जो उनकी पर कैपिटा इनकम है वो हमसे कई गुना ज्यादा है. और हमने अभी जो कोविड में देखा कि एसेंशियल मेडिसिन को ब्लैक में बेचा जा रहा था, उनकी प्राइस एक्सॉर्बिटेंटली हाई थी. तो हमारे देश में जहां पे अभी भी पर कैपिटा इनकम और देशों के कंपेयर में काफी कम है, पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की काफी जरूरत है. तो मनसुख जी कैसे किस प्रकार से ये बोल रहे हैं कि वो किस प्रकार से कंट्रोल किया जाएगा? मेरा बेसिक सवाल ये है. जो प्राइस हाइक हो जाता है एक्सॉर्बिटेंटली, उसको कैसे कंट्रोल किया जाएगा अगर पीपीपी मॉडल भी उसमें घुस जाता है तो?
मल्लिकार्जुन जी, आपका सवाल एग्जैक्टली क्या है, एक बार फिर से रिफ्रेम करके बताइए. मुझे इसमें दो पहलू दिख रहे हैं, फिर से आप बता सकते हैं?
सर कंसाइज वे में बताओ.
ठीक है सर, बेसिकली मेरा यही सवाल है. जैसे कि हमने कोविड के टाइम पे देखा कि रेमडेसिविर जैसी कई एसेंशियल मेडिसिन की एक्सॉर्बिटेंटली प्राइस हाई हो गई थी. एंड इंडिया जहाँ पे काफी लोग हेल्थ केयर अफोर्ड नहीं कर पाते, उनकी पर कैपिटा इनकम काफी लो है, वो इतनी प्राइस हाइक नहीं अफोर्ड कर सकते. अगर प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स ऐसे धीरे धीरे और ज्यादा हेल्थ केयर में घुसने लग गए और प्राइस बढ़ने लग गया, तो इसे कैसे कंट्रोल किया जाएगा और हेल्थ केयर को कैसे एक्सेसिबल बनाया जाए?
अच्छा खड़गे साहब, मैं आपको एक बात बताना चाहूँगा कि पब्लिक प्राइवेट पार्टनरशिप मॉडल्स में यही एक खूबी होती है कि अगर मैं एज अ गवर्नमेंट एक प्राइवेट मॉडल के साथ जुड़ा हुआ हूँ, तो आई वुड हैव इन प्लेस अ लॉट ऑफ स्कीम्स which will help me mitigate the prices. And of course, since हम एक प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशन के साथ रिलेशनशिप में आ रहे हैं, तो हमें इस बात का ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा कि देयर फर्स्ट एंड फॉरमोस्ट objective is to gain profit. If we are able to mitigate that, it is more or less a win-win situation. बात रही प्राइस हाइक्स की सर, तो आई वुड टेल यू दैट हमने कुछ वैक्सीन्स काफ़ी मिनिमल प्राइसेस पे बेची थी, और उसके अलावा जो भी प्राइवेट वैक्सीन्स हमारे इकोनॉमी में थी प्रेजेंट, उन्हें लोगों ने अपने चॉइस से खरीदा है. एंड अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट सर, वी हैव ऑल्सो gone through with the free vaccination schemes, and we have been successful there. So I don't think that we cannot mitigate your concern through successful healthcare schemes, sir.
Okay, sir, fair. Addressing Sharad Pawar's concern in the chat box. Sir, Sharad Pawar, in the future, if you have a point of personal privilege, you can interrupt the speaker if they are not audible. In the future, and Mr. Mansukh Mandavia, I think that was a concern on my end as well, but I could understand what you're saying. So just be a little louder in your speeches. Yes, K.C. Venugopal.
Sir, can I ask a point of information?
You weren't recognized when we had one question, right?
Oh, okay. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah. The next speaker is Narayan Rani.
Yes, sir. I hope I'm audible. Okay, then I shall begin. Good morning, one and all present here. Let me start by telling you that the most imminent challenge is the shortage of well-equipped medical institutes. Compared to the urgent need, the rate of building of such medical teaching or training institutes remains low. Until recently, private medical institutions had to be erected on at least 5 acres of land in accordance with the government regulations. As a result, a huge number of private colleges were created in remote locations, making it difficult to recruit suitably qualified full-time doctors due to poor living conditions and low pay scales. The unveiling of these gaps has offered us an opportunity to look at the possible ways in which we can transform the healthcare infrastructure. In 2020, the 15th Finance Commission highlighted the role of public-private partnerships in improving health infrastructure and suggesting increasing public spending on health from 0.95% of the GDP to 2.5% by 2024. Here are some ways that the PPP model can benefit us. Firstly, we can look into the renovation of medical facilities, which can benefit greatly from the experience and management skills in the private sector in creating and managing successful organizations. Then we can come upon the affordable care that is possibly made by the PPP's high volume, low margin business model, which can guarantee universal health coverage and keep healthcare costs down. Furthermore, I would like to touch upon that a public-private partnership is often advantageous and effective because it combines the different perspectives that the participants have to offer in order to develop a comprehensive plan for a long-term change. A well-planned PPP is the path we should take to create a sustainable healthcare system in an emerging economy like India, because the government has the capacity to provide scale and significant subsidies, and the private sector brings in the funds and expertise to deliver things and scale at a time. For my concluding statement, I would like to say that the social organizations can serve as stewards of such partnerships to work and achieve goals. PPP is the way to improve and uplift the Indian healthcare system, and we are all here and will constantly work towards it, towards our brighter future. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Sharad Pawar.
Yeah, I would like to ask Shri Narayan Rani, can you please explain more broadly how will public-private partnerships keep healthcare costs low? At what cost? At what expense?
Okay, so may I answer this question, Chair?
Go ahead.
Sure, sir. Thank you with your kind permission. Making healthcare affordable is a very important aspect when it comes to PPPs, and such PPPs can be managed effectively and can function the high volume, low margin models, and thus it can optimize the efforts to create higher impact. Simply put, for your understanding, see, public-private partnerships that work on mass scale, such partnerships can make services affordable while retaining their quality. So this would offer quality healthcare to everybody at an inexpensive price. So we can thus help better access to a wider strata of our population, which is very vast. I hope I have answered your question and satisfied you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is, yes, Hardeep Singh Puri.
So, a point of parliamentary inquiry.
Go ahead.
Which faction of the Shiv Sena does Ms. Chaturvedi represent, if she could clarify?
Okay, either she'll address that in the chat box or in her speech.
Okay,
right?
That would be really nice. Thank you.
Madam Priyanka Chaturvedi.
Okay, may I start? Okay, good morning, everybody. The stark reality of healthcare in India has become evident in the last 2 years. The COVID pandemic has brought to the fore gaps in the Indian healthcare system and offers a unique opportunity to transform it. Affordability and accessibility are two major concerns in India. To this effect, several state governments and the central government have put in place various insurance schemes. In 2018, the center rolled out the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, a health insurance scheme that provides free access to healthcare to 50 crore economically vulnerable Indians. PPP in healthcare has the potential to resolve the issue and ensure healthcare inclusion for the Indian masses. PPP will bring in resources the government needs to make available in healthcare, as well as create a sustainable long-term model. PPP is the way to improve and uplift the Indian healthcare system.
Thank you, madam. Members wishing to ask questions. Yes, Hardeep Singh, go ahead.
Sir, I would only ask the question once my point of information has been clarified.
Point of information?
Yes,
Inquiry.
about which faction does she represent? That was not clarified in the speech.
Right. So you can ask that question in your question as a point of information, right?
But I need to know if she is in our alliance or if she is not.
Sir, I really can't help you at this point, sir. You have the provision to ask questions. You're not asking her a question.
Okay, I'll not ask her a question.
Sir, do you want a point of information?
No, I do not. The raise of hand was for point of parliamentary inquiry.
Okay. Priyanka Chaturvedi, can you please resolve sir's questions quickly on the WhatsApp group?
Can you please repeat the question?
The question is which part or which side or which fact do you represent, madam? Right. Members wishing to ask questions to Priyanka Chaturvedi? Seeing none, we'll move on to MJ Akbar.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Today, here many members spoke about the importance of this model and many more are left to speak. Opposition was a bit skeptical about this model. Maybe this is not the only model for development, but this is the ideal one. And definitely it will help country keeping in mind the dynamic changing of geopolitics. I'll not be presenting facts and arguments. Instead, I spoke with the doctor a few months back. I asked him about his queries and concerns about this sector, and he gave me a few intriguing ideas. He said, why not provide the same facilities as they get for industry and manufacturing sector? Like no taxes for first few years. Taxes like no income tax, GST, or import duties. Import duties may go up to lakhs of rupees for the import of the machineries, which are very expensive. This system is also present in manufacturing sector. So why not bring the same system in this healthcare sector? Government should promote insurance. This can be done by co-payment. Like let's say government pay a share like 60 40 70 30. Then the people will understand the importance of it, and after few years government can back down from the scheme. This will also not be a burden on government, and people as being used to insurance will keep on opting for it. This industry will then become self-sustainable. Budget, which seems to be a problem today, will not be a matter of concern tomorrow. And considering this to be a social sector and also taking in account the concern of people and opposition, I would like to progress gradually in this sector so that people will understand the importance and success of this model and will readily accept it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Members wishing to ask questions. Sharad Pawar, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Actually, I do. Can I go ahead?
No. So we'll have Kapil Sibal as he hasn't asked a question in this session.
Thank you for the question. My question is that
Kapil Sibal, you're not audible. Can you switch off your video and talk?
you talked about the government giving some of the 60-40% some care to the. Sure, no problem.
Not
Am I audible?
really. Not really. Switch off your video and
Hello,
try,
sir. Am
please.
I audible?
Kapil Sibal. Okay. Who were the other members wishing to ask a question? Yeah, we'll have Sharad Pawar. Go ahead.
Thank you, respected chair. First of all, I would like to ask Shri MJ Akbar, how can you not present facts and arguments in your speech? How else will your speech be credible and even make sense? And please enlighten me and broaden me on how this is the perfect model. And my last question is, where are you even getting your data from to base whatever speech you made on this?
First of all, I would like to, sir, can I answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I would like to bring the fallacy in argument. The first question you said you did not represent any facts. And the last question was, from where did you bring your data? If I did not say any facts, how did I represent the data? And when I meant I am not here to represent facts, what I actually meant was there are many other members who are representing data. And I did not want to go into data. I want to speak the concerns of people and the doctors who actually work in this system. And answering your second question, how will I make this model to be a perfect one? Well, perfect is a myth. There is no such thing as a perfect model. I'm hoping here to make it a better model, which will help in the country. And yes, I have represented some facts. I have represented some arguments which will help to make this model a better one.
I don't want, yeah. So, respected chair, can I ask a follow-up question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you just said that I don't want to sound disrespectful anyway, but I just wanted to say, if you said you do not want to, perfect is a myth, this and that, then why you even said it in the first place? And then you were also talking about how it's this is a social sector. Then why else? Why else are healthcare costs not being made low and all for the public?
So can I answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I did not use the word perfect. I used the word ideal, which is true. And
all right, thank you.
Chair, what was his second question?
Thank you.
Okay.
Sharad Pawarji, just one thing from next session onward, whenever you're asking a question, try to limit it to one question, because you're not allowed to ask two questions in one single go. Okay? Yeah.
Respected chair.
Yeah, no issues. Yes, Karan, please go.
Right. We'll have Indu Balagoswami next.
Yes. Am I audible? Thank you, Mr. Chair. So private sector engages for strategic purchases for critical gap filling and for accelerating of health goals. The 15th Finance Commission has mooted a greater role for PPP to ramp up the health infrastructure. It envisages scaling up of public spending from health from 0.9% of GDP to 2.5% by 2021, which is in current 2.1%. Substantial improvements in the working conditions for doctors in governmental hospitals, as mostly doctors are hired on a contract basis. Creation of an Indian Medical Service Cadre under the Civil Services Act of 1951. We also spotlighted to take steps to fix the skewed availability of healthcare across India as the poorest states need it most. National Health Policy Scheme of 2017 is easily accessible and affordable primary healthcare. It's health card for access to primitive facility services anytime and anywhere. Free health care to victims for gender violence in public sectors. We are also using Ayush as a tool for effective prevention and therapy. As a member of our parliament said that infant mortality rate was 30 at 2019, but let me tell him that it is 27.69 in the current year. And also the fertility rate, which we were expecting to be 2.1 by 2025. It was 2.1 in the current year, and it was 2.2, which we have earlier acquired. So we are reaching our goals 3 years again, 3 years.
Thank you, ma'am. Members wishing to ask questions. Yes, Mr. Kharge.
So actually, I had a point of order. Can I raise
Go
it?
ahead.
So the honorable
point of order on the executive board or the
on the parliamentarian speech.
No, sir. Point of order can only be allowed against the members of the panel.
Okay.
If we have incurred a procedural error, then only you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. If there's a factual inaccuracy, then that via breach of privilege. Yeah.
So I can't send it even via chat on the WhatsApp
If
group.
there is a factual inaccuracy don't want to raise, that you can do that via breach of privilege. We can allow the breach of privilege notice. For that, please send me a notice.
Okay.
Quoting what did he say wrong.
Okay.
Unquoting what is correct.
Okay.
And not only that, I need to know as to how that is utterly misleading in the committee.
Okay.
Just a regular factual inaccuracy won't work. Yeah.
Okay. So point of information.
Just a second. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Madam and all the honorable members of the government, उन्होंने सबने बात करी कि PPP model implement करना है, but which model are they talking about and in which sector? The infrastructure and healthcare sector, which model? The BOT model, the HAM model, the EPC model, the management, the management model. Which model are you talking about exactly, ma'am?
Can I answer? For the question raised?
Go ahead.
Yes, so basically we are talking about healthcare sector, and the implementation is about the implementation of hospitals in healthcare sector and implementation of the doctors reaching to the private sector and public sector for the betterment of the society.
Sir, free to follow up.
No, sir, not granted, sir. Right. We'll have Narasimha Rao.
Good morning, respected chairs and the distinguished delegate. Now talking, India now targets at this point universal health coverage across the nation, correct? Now, there are two parts to any service that is provided. One is the production of the service or the asset and the final delivery of the service. India, being the third largest producer by volume of pharmaceutical products, is already doing well enough on the asset side, correct? Coming to the delivery of these assets across a very huge diverse nations. I discussed with fellow politician and Dr. Mansukh Malviya about UHC and the basic healthcare facilities that needed to be eventually linked to Aadhaar card and create a greater social welfare system on how basically the expansion of CoWIN app. Now, how would this happen? Specifically in the sector of health insurance. There is something known as a employer-sponsored health insurance under the ESI scheme, which is basically Employees State Insurance Scheme 1948. Now, this is an extremely old scheme, and it covers workers under the salary of or the wage of 21,000 rupees per month. That's it. So first of all, when we talk about the proper laying out and expansion of this ESIS scheme to cover more and more employees, we can also talk about and take inspiration from other models. There are 2-3 models: Bismarckian model, there's the NHI model, and there's the Bavarian model. Now, NHI model, which is followed in Canada, would suit our needs. That is, the funding comes through a government insurance, through a set of government programs, and the private players are used as a non-profit base to spread them out across the diverse nation diverse regions that we have. However, these are strictly non-profitable. And finally, collecting the whole ecosystem through a huge CBSC digital rupee that is also in the pipeline for from the side of our government would eventually mean the total revitalization and a sort of a revolution comes to the health industry. With that, I would like to conclude my.
Thank you, sir. Members wishing to ask questions. Yes, Kapil Sibal, what point?
Point of
Go
information.
ahead.
Sir, you stated a lot about the workers getting the insurance, but I would like to point out over here is the contractual workforce in PPPs. While most of the health workers are being appointed by the private contractors, they face a very lower pay, and the public sector can't even oversee it because it is hired by the private sector. So how would you justify the public sector or the private sector giving lower pays to the workers in the healthcare?
May I answer to this
Am I-
question? So
yes, sir, go ahead.
Or Kapil Sibal, do you wish to expand on this?
I don't know.
Okay. So your question, if I understand this correctly, is you're basically saying that the private players or the private corporations' ability to pay these workers is not reflected in their actions, rather just words, correct?
No, that is not my question. It was about the actual fact that the workforce in the PPP face a very lower pay and poor working conditions, and which the government can't even look at it because it is handled by the private contractors. That's what my point is about. Wouldn't it overall risk the uh, healthcare system if we don't have a better pay?
Okay. So first of all, this would obviously have happened through the total restructuring and the rehauling of the affected areas, because you would see this pay disparities are different in different regions. And I'll tell you what happens. Our budget for the health sector is increasing, but in the metropolitan cities, people are opting more and more to the private sector. This is basically happening because the perception of the public sector, and as you mentioned, the pay is low. How will it be solved? It will be basically solved by putting a strict notion or a progressive income bracket across the region, because the per capita in Mumbai is simply not same as per capita in say Chandigarh or something, correct? So it will need to be progressive in that fact, and a sort of a total restructuring need to be done with it. Secondly, I didn't exactly speak about that. I spoke about what is known as ESI, which would be directly compensated by the private corporations to their workers.
Okay. Narasimha Rao ji, can you just confirm for my sake that you mentioned that a new progressive income tax structure will have to be brought out?
Yeah.
Understood. Yes, Sharad Pawar.
Thank you, respected chair. I would like to ask.
What point do you
Oh
raise
yeah,
to,
okay. Yeah, I would like to ask him a question.
Okay, Narasimha Rao, will you entertain another question?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, go ahead.
Shri Narasimha Rao, I would like to ask you to broaden on how will private players be used as non-profit based. Can you explain a little further on that?
Definitely. So this is influenced by two models. First is the Bismarck model, which is used in Germany, and the number two is NHI model, which is used in Canada. Now, Canada, what it does, the government pays for these insurance and these social welfare services in the health sector. However, they are incorporated and distributed via the private players who are based on non-profit. Why is this the case? This is the case because when the government goes on to spend this, it becomes extremely expensive, and clumped up bureaucracy and a lot of clumsiness happened because of the variation that is in Canada. Even you have Alberta, then you go Ontario. These are different regions with different needs, and then you have a sort of autonomous state in their far west coast, which is anyway. So coming to India, now India is a much more diverse nation than Canada, do you agree that we all do agree with that, right? So when we take those needs into factor, we have to understand that to make sure that resources are being used effectively, and the whole supply being effectively coordinated, you will need private players eventually, right? Or it will be stuck with bureaucracy and corruption at each and every level of administration.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right, we'll move on to the next speaker. That is Hardeep Singh Puri. And after Hardeep Singh Puri, we'll have Mallikarjun Kharge, followed by
Honorable Chairman, we can only appreciate what we do not have. And we did not have an able healthcare system, and as we inherited it in 2014. We were reluctant, we agree. When the COVID pandemic struck, we were caught off guard, as everyone was. But in the last 3 years, we have built our healthcare sector to a formidable stature. Sir, the Pradhan Mantri Arogya Yojana has extended an insurance of 5 lakh rupees to 10 crore families, where even a rickshaw puller or a vegetable vendor can, if there is no bed in a government hospital, he can walk into a Fortis or he can walk into an Apollo and get the same treatment, and it will be paid by the government. Sir, from 1947 to 2014, 7 All India Institute of Medical Sciences were built. From 2014 to 2022, 18 have been built. One more is in process in Ranchi, which the Prime Minister inaugurated just a few days back. Sir, my colleague Mansukh Mandviya ji, he deserves much appreciation. When he was the Minister of State for Chemical and Fertilizers, he undertook the vaccination program, which is the largest universal free vaccination program in the world. We did not build the vaccines. The Serum Institute built the vaccine, Bharat Biotech built the vaccines, Dr. Reddy's built the vaccines. What we did was facilitate that technology, transfer of technology. We built the CoWIN app, which connected the centers with the suppliers. We trained the personnel in injecting the vaccines. We provided the platform. As I say, jis desh ki sarkar vyapari, us desh ki janta bhikhari. We have no business being in business. Business should be left to the businessmen. Okay, so there are 2 examples which I would like, because even in the state governments, they are working in coordination with the center, with the double engine government. In Uttar Pradesh, they have built 75 hospitals, one in every district, via the public-private partnerships using the build, operate and transfer model. And in Assam recently, there was a joint venture between the government of Assam and the Tata Cancer Trust, building 17 new cancer research centers in the state of Assam. I would like to congratulate Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath ji, Chief Minister of Assam, my dear friend Dr. Himanta Biswa Sarma ji, and of course our beloved Mr. Ratan Tata ji, for their work that they have done in this sector. In the speech in Lok Sabha a couple of months back, Mansukh Mandviya ji elaborated on the model that was adapted in Assam, and I feel that is a great example and we should adopt it. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, sir. Members wishing to ask questions. Right, we'll have Mallikarjun Kharge followed by Kapil Sibal.
सर आपने बात करी एम्स की, 8 नए एम्स, बट मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूंगा कि इनमें से
18 नए एम्स, 18
ओके सर, आपने बात करी 18 नए एम्स की, जो कि 2014 के बाद बनाए गए हैं, पर क्या आप मुझे कोई इंडेक्स या उनकी रैंकिंग बता सकते हैं जिनमें उन्होंने अच्छा परफॉर्म किया हो पिछले 7 सालों में? बिकॉज इट शुड नॉट बी लाइक इट इज अ हॉलो प्रॉमिस एंड आपने एक इंस्टीट्यूशन खड़ा कर दिया लेकिन उसमें क्वालिटी एजुकेशन देना भूल गए।
बच्चा पैदा होते से ही तो भागने नहीं लगता मल्लिकार्जुन खड़गे जी। ये एम्स जो हैं ये 2014 में बनना चालू हुए, 2019, 20, 21 और 22 में बन के तैयार हुए हैं। अभी ये बीओटी मॉडल से चल रहे हैं, बिल्ड ऑपरेट ट्रांसफर। तो अभी इनमें जो स्टाफ है वो प्राइवेट स्टाफ है। हम रिक्रूटमेंट कर रहे हैं, जो 2018 में बन चुके हैं उनमें कुछ में प्रोफेसर्स आ चुके हैं। बच्चे भी इस बार जो नीट हुआ है उसके थ्रू नए एम्स में जा रहे हैं। मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि 2024 तक जो 2019 तक जो एम्स बन चुके हैं उनमें हम पूरे तरीके से उनको टेक ओवर कर चुके होंगे प्राइवेट सेक्टर से, और जो बाकी हैं वो आने वाले सालों में हम कर लेंगे। और ये चीज तो जवाहरलाल नेहरू जी ने भी बोली थी, भारत के पहले प्रधानमंत्री जी ने, कि only those societies progress who sow the seeds for the trees जिनके fruits वो खुद नहीं खा सकते. So we should look for the long term. ये short term चीजें नहीं है जी.
Sir, free to follow up.
No, sir.
दे Karan, allow it.
Okay, go ahead.
Sir, what I was talking about is कि अभी तक इनकी performance not in terms of the students, but I'm talking about in terms of infrastructure. I'm talking about in terms of research. I'm talking about in terms of the facilities that you have provided. What is the अभी तक आपका क्या परफॉर्मेंस रहा है? आप किस रैंकिंग को या फिर किस वर्ल्ड रैंकिंग, इंडियन रैंकिंग, किसको कोट करके बोल सकते हैं कि हमने वर्ल्ड क्लास इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर दिया है इन एम्स को, हमने इनको अच्छी फैसिलिटीज दी है रिसर्च करने के लिए? क्योंकि दिस इज नॉट समथिंग दैट नीड्स 8 years, or maybe your government requires 8 years.
सर बताइए.
Yes. Basically, as I said कि ये सारे ऑपरेशनल नहीं हुए एम्स. यूनिवर्सिटीज, रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूशंस को ऑपरेशनलाइज होने में टाइम लगता है. रिसर्चर्स हैव टू बी रिक्रूटेड. बट अगर आप किसी भी नए एम्स में आए तो मनसुख मांडविया जी भी ये कर देंगे, लेकिन आप मेरे से भी कांटेक्ट कीजिए. आई विल गिव यू अ टूर. आई विल शो यू द इक्विपमेंट. एवरीथिंग इज देयर. पीपल आर बीइंग रिक्रूटेड. द वर्क इज बीइंग डन एट फुल स्केल. आप आइए, हम आपको पूरा गाइड टूर देंगे.
Yeah, Karan, please move on.
Right. The next question was from Kapil Sibbal, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
May I proceed with the question?
Go ahead.
Since sir, you mentioned that the Pradhan Mantri Arogya Yojana promised to provide an annual insurance coverage of rupees 5 lakh to the poorest families, 40% of the poorest families. However, during the time of COVID, only 14.25% of the people hospitalized for the COVID-19 were given the that was able to provide cushion for only 14.25% of the people, and the rest of the people were not given the benefit of the insurance. So how do you plan on implementing the yojanas which you are which you have actually proposed and passed?
Sir, as I mentioned earlier, this is the first global pandemic that we have suffered after 100 years. Last was the Spanish flu. We were not prepared. Nobody in the world was prepared. It was emergency mode. We were converting 5-star hotels even into hospitals. We were converting dharmshalas. Everything was being done. It was very difficult to account those expenses. And all of the treatment that was carried under government or under this scheme was free and will be free. If there are any discrepancies, that's a legal issue. I would request everyone who has been denied this right to go to the court and complain. We'll be more than happy to take orders from the court and correct where we went wrong. This is not a legislative issue. This is a judicial issue.
Sir, will I be able to supplement?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, you rightly mentioned that people should go to the judiciary for relief, but the people who are not able to afford the basic health care, how can they afford to go to the judiciary and fight for the rights? Don't you think the litigation costs in India are much more higher since there's an absence of quasi-judicial bodies? Also, secondly, the expenses. No, Mr. Mansukh Mandavia during the Lok Sabha session had acknowledged himself that only 0.52 million.
That will be all. We'll take your first follow-up. Mr. Puri, please respond.
Yes, sir. पहली चीज तो मैं ये बोलना चाहूंगा सर, अगर आप प्रोबोनो केसेस लेने लग जाएं कांग्रेस पार्टी के लिए केसेस लेने की जगह, तो शायद थोड़ी लोगों की मदद उधर से हो जाएगी. बाकी there's a provision that everyone who cannot afford a lawyer will get a government lawyer. That is the provision. I know the number of lawyers are less and we need to work on that. Kiran Rijiju ji is working on that, but lawyers hain, aisi baat nahi hai. So you don't need to question the accessibility of our courts.
Sir, am I allowed to follow up?
No, there's only one granted.
Problem. Thank you.
Move on to the next speaker.
Right. We'll have Mallikarjun Kharge now.
Karan, before that, how many speakers do we have remaining for the session?
Two more.
Two more, right?
Yeah.
All right. Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for the recognition. सर, सबसे पहले हमें ये देखना होगा कि हमारे पास कमी कितनी है. आज WHO की स्टैंडर्ड से हमारे पास जो डॉक्टर्स हैं पर एक डॉक्टर 1,500 लोगों से भी ज्यादा को ट्रीट कर रहा है. कमेंडेबल जॉब है, लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमें ये रेशियो कम करना पड़ेगा. दूसरा सर, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ हेल्थ एंड फैमिली वेलफेयर ने 2019 में ये बताया था कि 1.7 नर्सेज हैं every 1,000 people के लिए. However, the number should be 3. So how do we outsource this using the PPP model? Sir, first of all, जो infrastructure build होगा, मैं चाहता हूँ कि वो EPC basis पे हो, engineering, procurement and construction basis पे, ना कि bought या फिर कोई और basis पे, क्योंकि एक short term infrastructure होता है compared to roads or highways, so it should be done on EPC basis. Secondly, sir, 15th Finance Commission ने ये recommend किया है कि स्पेशलिटी हेल्थ केयर को ज्यादा प्रेफरेंस दी जाए पीपीपी पे, और मैं ये मानता हूं कि इससे एक काफी अच्छी बात ये होगी कि जो प्राइमरी हेल्थ केयर है अपनी, उस पे गवर्नमेंट फोकस कर पाएगी. टर्शियरी हेल्थ केयर, रिसर्च, इसमें आप पीपीपी को जितने भी प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स हैं उन्हें ग्रांट्स प्रोवाइड करें, मैनेजमेंट बेसिस पे उन्हें हॉस्पिटल्स में रखें, बट प्राइमरी हेल्थ केयर पे फोकस करना गवर्नमेंट का पहला ऑब्जेक्टिव होना चाहिए, कंसिडरिंग कि 2021 में नीति आयोग ने इन्फॉर्म किया कि 30% of the people are devoid of health insurance in India. So what we need to do is, if the government can provide the health insurance, they should reach out to the people, make them more aware, and if not, they should ally with the private partners. Secondly, sir, PPP से जितने specialty hospital बनते हैं, उनमें जिन पे भी BPL कार्ड हो, उनके लिए बेसिकली हेल्थ चेकअप फ्री किया जाए, और बाकियों के लिए आप प्राइस लिबर्टी दे प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स को, ताकि वो भी अपना प्रॉफिट बना सके और एक इनेबलिंग एनवायरनमेंट बने पीपीपी के, वो डिस्करेज ना हो इसमें इन्वेस्ट करने के.
Right, sir. Thank you. We'll have I'm guessing Nirmala Sitharaman and Hardeep Singh Puri have questions, so we'll have Nirmala Sitharaman followed by Hardeep Singh Puri.
Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, the engineering, procurement and construction contracts are specifically only used to undertake construction works by private sector. How can such a particular contract be established to resolve problems of recruiting nurses or doctors, specifically in medical sector? Please explain.
Sir, I think you didn't hear my speech or something, but I was clearly talking about the infrastructure in healthcare system that has to be built. I was talking about the hospitals, the research facilities, etc.
To follow up.
Go ahead.
Sir, the government has already had such an agreement, which is called the Modern Concession Agreement, specifically for health sector, which has been notified under the National Health Mission, which covers your point. What do we additionally require there?
Sir, the model concession agreement does not talk about the specific models that you are implying in the building of the infrastructure. I am talking about the specifically EPC model to be used for the building of hospitals and other research facilities in the healthcare infrastructure.
Sir, breach of privilege is a point of parliamentary inquiry?
Breach of privilege via chit in the format that the chairman has mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah, just put the in quotes what was quoted wrong, and then you say the right thing.
Yes.
Yes,
along with how that is misleading the committee.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, Hardeep Singh Puri.
As Mallika Arjun Khadge ji mentioned that consultation with doctors should be free of cost for low income group people, and it should be at a lower rate for other people as well. But we are providing free, not even low, free consultation with doctors under the PM Arogya Yojana. And if there are no doctors available in the government hospital, you can even go to the private. So what additionally is Mallika Arjun ji suggesting what we do?
Sir, what I was talking about, sir, primary healthcare पे मैंने कहा था कि आप गवर्नमेंट में फोकस करिए, तो ऑफ कोर्स आपका प्राइमरी हेल्थ केयर अपने आप ही फ्री हो जाएगा. मैं पीपीपी की बात कर रहा था 15th फाइनेंस कमीशन की रिपोर्ट के अनुसार, जिस प्रकार उन्होंने बोला था कि आप स्पेशलिटी हेल्थ केयर में फोकस करिए, जो कि टर्शरी हेल्थ केयर है बेसिकली आपका. उसमें मैं कह रहा था ताकि पीपीपी को एक इनेबलिंग एनवायरनमेंट मिले, बीपीएल कार्ड्स वालों को फ्री कर दिया जाए, बाकियों जो कि बीपीएल कार्ड्स नहीं है, जिन पे जो लो इनकम ग्रुप को नहीं बिलोंग करते, उनके लिए प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स को फ्रीडम दी जाए एक लिमिट तक कि वो एक प्राइजेस सेट कर सके, ताकि एक इनेबलिंग एनवायरनमेंट बने और वो इन्वेस्ट करने से रुके नहीं.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, Narasimha Rao, what point?
Point of personal privilege. If I have a question, can I ask via chat?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead. Right, we'll move on to the last speaker of this session. Nirmala Sitharaman.
Number one, first of all, we need to understand that the WHO's health financing profile of 2017 shows that 67.78% of total expenditure on health in India is out-of-pocket expenditure compared to the world average at 18.2%. The National Health Mission, which was introduced by the government, had the provisions and initiative to solve this. How? By basically strategically purchasing selective services from the private sector and not completely purchasing all the sort of provisions and services that are provided from the private sector. On pilot basis, OPD services are being purchased to understand the possibility of the scalable improvements that we can see in this particular sector. The strategic purchase had to be specifically mapped and designed and be adopted by the states and union territories. But the problem, however, is they have to do it according to their needs. Not much of the states and union territories in India are complying to these requirements that have been put out. In order to reduce the cost of healthcare, there is a need to incentivize these private sector, right? Now, that is why the government, under the model service agreement of the NHM, had specifically come out with financial incentives, where component X, which is a fixed sum earmark for each public healthcare center in the state, plus 10% of it is provided as an amount in 2 advance installments. In addition to this, there is component Y, which is a variant that is used in nature of incentive-based approach of a patient and the load and performance of the patients coming over there. In addition to this, there is weightage criteria that specifically includes antenatal care, which is given about somewhere around rupees 4 lakhs per annum, institutional delivery, which is around rupees 4 lakh per annum as well, and immunization, which is around rupees 4 lakh per annum. In addition to this, we need to realize, for the matter of fact, to go and comply with the National Digital Health Mission, there needs to be a proper data framework that needs to be ensured at district level as an electronic database for information on health, where we will obviously need the requirement of private players to come into play to implement the PMJY, to expand it, to implement the NRHM and the NUHM. For that specific matter, the states need to comply with the State Digital Health Mission. And I request this medium for the respective governments to comply with these initiatives that have been taken out by the government. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Members wishing to ask questions? Okay, KC Venugopal.
Hello, am I audible?
Go ahead.
Sir, so my question is, while the COVID-19 pandemic has bred inadequacy in India's healthcare, a task force prepared a fresh infrastructure spending roadmap, where you have lowered the budget for it, which was recommended in the interim report. So you have lowered your budget by around 2%, and then how can the government talk about affordable care and insurances? How can you achieve this things you are talking about over here when you are lowering your budget?
Sir, can the second part of the question be rephrased? I mean, like re-asked, because
Actually,
I lost
can you repeat the entire question and keep it very short and concise?
So you have lowered your spending in the budget around 1.5% of the overall healthcare infrastructure. So how do you plan to achieve these policies? And as your party member said, how are you promising to provide affordable healthcare and insurances?
So, first of all, the government has clearly not lowered any sort of expenditure in terms. You are specifically trying to confine the whole increase in allocation in terms of infrastructure, which is a very careful thing that you are deliberately doing to give a picture as that there has been a less investment that the government has come out with. Now, to predominantly answer your question, the government every year takes into consideration the budget estimate and the revised estimate. And based on the implementation of the past budget, the government comes out with a figure which it will be implementing. In addition to this, there are demands for grants that are additionally provided each and every year. So what you are trying to specifically do is take a particular static number and confine it and say that the budgetary allocations are down. I'm pretty sure it has not. There has been a clear response that has already been given in the budget session regarding this particular matter. Let it be the 2021 budget or let it be the 2022 budgets. Our priorities are currently on the way where we are increasing the budgetary allocations. What we feel personally is the increase in budgetary allocations is not much on the standards of the vision, because we need extra budgetary resources, and that is why we are having private sector investments over here. Answering the second part of your question regarding insurances, I think everybody for the past literal half an hour have been stating about the PMJY, the Ayushman Bharat scheme, which literally has gives an year coverage of 5 lakhs, and already 10.74 crore families have benefited from it. There were 14 crore Ayushman cards that have been given by this matter. So I think the government is on right track by making sure that this Ayushman Bharat scheme is also extended to certain tier 3 hospitals which are private, and district level hospitals which are private. Thank you.
Yes, Ratwar.
Give proof that there have been scalable improvements in this sector.
Sir, we didn't hear you, sir.
Okay. Give proof that there have really been scalable improvements in this sector.
Sir, as I think you haven't listened to my complete speech and the speeches by the health ministry. There is this beautiful website that you can right now access if you have internet in your home. Go to the Ministry of Health and Welfare Development, where you will find beautiful schemes that the government has come out with. The Jan Arogya Yojana, the Ayushman Bharat scheme that we have specifically come out with, and the National Health Mission, which has been compiled by certain states. These states have certainly, and Posh Abhiyan scheme for that matter of fact, which provides nutrition, to which we saw budgetary allocations increasing for the past 2 years. These are all the forefront schemes that have been specifically used to address health and matters of increase in the the question that you're asking, the basic increase in the health infrastructure, or per se the health has improved in this nation. Addition to this, we have had PM Asha, all these contraceptives which have been provided by the government, which has facilitated the health of people to increase. The total fertility rates perhaps have been online and have reduced in enormous number of states. Now, this is a clear picture that we are going on right track. If you need abundant resources that are already there on the website, but if your real question is a rhetoric one, which basically asks, has the health infrastructure in India improved? You need to consider that health is a matter of state. So per se, if you are questioning the credentiality of something that the state governments must be accountable for the central government, I believe that is a double negative statement. Thank you.
Right. So we have exhausted the list of speakers for this session.
Yeah.
Mihir sir, are you
all right. So with that, we come to an end for this particular discussion hour. Are there any points on the floor? K.C. Venugopal, followed by Mahesh Malani, followed by Narasimha Rao.
Sir, point of parliamentary inquiry, can we go for an unmod?
Informal session?
Yeah.
Surely we can do that.
So for that, we have to raise a motion.
I have taken your motion. Informal session for how many minutes? How much time?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right. Mr. Malani, please tell me your motion, or what point are you raising?
I will raise a motion for extension for 10 minutes, 5 speakers.
For extension,
on
5
the same
minutes.
topic.
All right. In order, Piyush Goyal.
It is essentially the same, where I would like to move a motion to extend the current discussion now by 10 minutes per speaker time being 2 minutes.
All right. In order, okay. So since the motion that is put across by Mr. K.C. Venugopal is the most disruptive in nature, we'll be going ahead with that one first. That is the motion to have an informal session for how much time, sir? 15 minutes, right? Mr. Venugopal?
Yeah.
15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
All right. Everyone, please put your hands down. Mr. Sibyl, please put your hand down. Lower your hand. Yeah. All those members in favor of the motion put across by Mr. Venugopal, that is to have an informal session for the next 15 minutes, raise your hand. You've got 5 more seconds to cast your vote. All those against? A lot of members are not voting. Everyone lower your hand. Tanaya, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, could you please take a track of who is voting for and who is voting against, and then tell me who is not voting at all. Yeah, everyone lower your hand. Yeah, members in favor of the informal session for 15 minutes, please raise your hand. All right, thank you. I think Tanat, 16 plus 14, that means 38. Two members are still not voting, right?
Yes, sir. Just give me.
You can get back to me with the name of those members. But up until then, this motion fails. The next motion that we have is the motion to have an extension of the previous discussion hour with the topic, which is discussion on Triple P model in case of healthcare sector and its allied sectors. Total time period 10 minutes, so that we can accommodate 5 more speakers. Members in favor, please raise your hand. Members against? Only 24 people have voted. Everyone lower your hand.
Sir?
Yes, Tana.
I can't see Vivek Thakur voting for any of the motions.
Okay, let's try it again for the one last time. Members, make sure that you're voting. You're not allowed to abstain. It is a compulsory card that you have to give. Members in favor, please raise your hand, and Tanaya, take a note. Take a screenshot of these 16, 17 members that we have. Okay, now people are voting. Okay, members against? Still 27 people are voting. 5 people are not voting. Okay, the motion passes. The motion was put across by whom? Who raised this motion, Tanaya? Mahesh Jetmalani, and there were 2 members who raised the same motion.
Piyush Goyal.
Okay, okay. Piyush Goyal, would you like to be the first speaker? Mr. Mahesh Jetmalani, would you like to be the second speaker?
Yes, sir.
We can accommodate 3 more spots. Members willing to speak, please raise your hand. Kapil Sibal, followed by Ashok Bajpai, followed by Prakash Javadekar. Piyush Goyal, you have the floor for next 2 minutes. Please start the time.
Sir, am I audible?
You're audible. Please go.
Good morning, everyone. Healthcare is one of the most important and vital pillar of our country, and our government is committed to continue our efforts to provide quality healthcare to the people of this country, both in terms of availability and affordability. Public-private partnerships in healthcare is essential, and it can be operated through various modes like the management contract system, the leasing system, joint venture system, BO or BOT methods, concession, among myriad others. Joint ventures and greenfield projects can resolve the issue of shortage of medical colleges and increase the quality and quantity of medical professionals. Similar PPP is used for development of primary and secondary healthcare centers, which can cater to the need of 60 to 70% of the population, can reduce the burden on the tertiary government hospitals, which are crippling under patient load. We have seen success of PPP schemes in healthcare, like when the Mandeshi Foundation with HSBC India and Cipla Foundation successfully ran a district hospital. Further models could include building private hospitals on public land and making a certain number of beds available for public funded patients. During COVID-19 vaccination, we have seen how the partnership between ICMR, National Institute of Virology, Pune, and Bharat Biotech had successfully delivered Covaxin. PPP is a viable model for health insurance scheme as well. PPP in healthcare can lead to massive employment generation. It directly provides employment to healthcare workers, technical staff, class 4 employees, and also indirect healthcare employment in the health, food, and beverage sector and construction sector. Experts recommend that either we have a manifold increase in the healthcare budget or we lean towards public-private partnerships. And since it is not feasible to increase the healthcare budget massively due to limited resources, public-private partnerships are currently the best solution for providing the resources needed for sustainable long-term healthcare infrastructure. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Members willing to ask questions, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll proceed to the second speaker, Mr. Jade Malani. You have the floor for next 2 minutes.
Audible?
Yes, you're audible. Please go on.
Thank you so much for giving me a chance to speak. Well, we have seen that public-private partnership has been successful in many areas like infrastructure, transport, and now talking about healthcare, I think it's really necessary to have it here. Since, see, there are many issues in healthcare like budget and infrastructure and many areas like that. It can improve in public-private partnership can improve healthcare. There have been many new institutions and research centers built in India through public-private partnership. Like recently, Maharashtra government approved a new medical college and research center in public-private partnership. Through public-private partnership, also we can see that there have been many instances where insurances have been provided to lower income people, and there have been many cases where some bills or like part of the bills have been paid by government and private institutions as well, private hospitals as well. Now talking about COVID times, many people have mentioned that how we couldn't, provide really support to those in need. Well, vaccine taking into consideration vaccines, two of the most administered vaccine in India, Covaxin and Covishield, were both produced by private companies and then they were distributed. India has administered over 1.5 billion doses of vaccines, which is an achievement in itself. And I think in future, if we just build more institutions, it will be really helpful for people with low incomes as well as normal people.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions to Mr. Jethmalani? What point do you raise, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge?
Madam, point of information.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
महेश जी, आपने कहा कि आपने आपने हेल्थ केयर सेक्टर की अभी पूरे स्पीच में बात करी और आपने वैक्सीन डिलीवरी की बात करी. काफी कमेंडेबल जॉब करी थी SII ने. बट मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ कि पूरे देश में कई सारे ऐसे इंस्टेंसेस थे कि जब ये वैक्सीन प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स के हाथ में आई डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन के लिए पब्लिक पे, तो फिर उनके प्राइसेस काफी एक्सॉर्बिटेंटली हाई कर दिए गए. That to 700 to 800 rupees, and when it came into the hands of private player. So how so don't you think that the distribution should be taken in, should be actually done by the government itself, and even if it is done by the private players, it should be capped to a certain limit?
Okay, thank you for the question. I would like to answer this question myself.
All right. We'll proceed to the next speaker. Tanaya, who's the next speaker?
So we have couples.
Mr. Sabal, please.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. Firstly, I would like to say that PPP is a very good model for the infrastructure and healthcare system and other things as well. But first and foremost, which all the parliamentarians representing the BJP government have stated that the government has come with a lot of yojanas, being the Pradhan Mantri PMJ Yojana and all of the other yojanas. But what have they done for the implementation of these yojanas? Because the private hospitals which are built under the PPP model does not accept the cards which are issued by the government in respect of these yojanas. Most of the private hospitals during COVID-19 had stated that the PMJ Yojana only covers the surgeries and not hospitalization, and due to that, a lot of people who were poor could not afford the hospitalization, and most of the people died in transit only. The PPP model is totally good, but the government is not focusing where it should implement it and how successfully it can implement it, because they have failed to build the infrastructure in the recent years, which has caused a lot of people during the COVID-19 to die because they couldn't reach out to the hospital. Secondly, the other thing is that the private hospitals which are built under the PPP model are taking away their hands from taking any responsibilities. They are just stating right away that the government schemes are for this purpose and not for that purpose, and the poor people can't even go somewhere and complain about it. They can go and complain about it, but does it happen really in practicality, and does the poor people get justice? Because we've seen it through the COVID-19 pandemic that so many people died, so many people complained, but there were no resolutions which were done. And the Prime Minister, of course, said that the government would pay for compensation and all of those other things, but did it really help? Because there's no data available anywhere which says that they have provided this much amount of money to the people who died during the COVID-19.
Thank you so much, sir. Are there any questions? Yes, Hardeep Singh.
Point of information. Kapil
Sure.
Sibal you mentioned that you are in favor of the PPP model, but just a few months back you issued a statement, and I read, when government don't have money, this is what they do. If in a household daily expenditure couldn't be made, what will they do? Sell off property. Now, are you against disinvestment or you for disinvestment? Please clarify your stand along with your party's stand on this.
What I'm trying to say is not that I am not stating anywhere that the PPP model is bad, and even I'm not saying that I am totally for it. The implementation which the government is doing, the current government is doing, is totally wrong. They're not correctly implementing this. That is the issue.
Please to follow up.
Granted, please go on.
So do you mean in the interview you gave to the Economic Times, was you were not in the right state of mind, or did you just not mean what you said over there?
I think your interpretation of the words which I've spoken is wrong.
Do you want me to quote it again?
Sure.
Thank you. Not required. We'll move on to the next speaker.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
Yes, Sitaraman ji, बताइए.
Can I ask a question to Mr.
Were you recognized?
No, sir, I raised my hand. We only recognize one question, so.
Okay, please.
Sir, yes, sir, I was about to recognize people as secretary.
Okay, then please ask the question.
Ma'am, you very specifically told that private hospitals are not allowing any sort of schemes that have been provided under the government under Ayushman Bharat, right? 24,653 hospitals have approved. The ratio of public to private hospitals that have been approving these cards is 54 is to 46. on what basis have you claimed that this particular scheme has not been extended to private hospitals when there has been a clear notification and press information bureau information that has been given to private hospitals to apply this particular scheme?
May I answer?
Sure.
Ma'am, you're totally mistaken about what I said. I didn't say that the private hospitals do not accept I said private hospitals are allowed to accept it, but the private hospitals in practical are saying it that the PMJ Yojana is only used for the surgeries and not the hospitalization. That is what I was stating over here. The cards, of course, the private hospitals ought to accept those cards and give the people benefit of it, but they are not giving it in practical. If you go and check out the reports and the recent surveys which are done, you would find your answer.
Sir, quickly to follow up.
Grant.
Ma'am, any insurance schemes as certain activities, liabilities that it will cover, right? The Ayushman Bharat cannot cover anything and everything, any sort of healthcare insurance, right? It has to cover confined to certain certain medical diseases, or it has to confine to only certain medical requirements. On what basis are you claiming that surgeries which have various origins of reasons for medical problems should eventually be covered under Ayushman?
Ma'am, you're totally mistaken what I said. I again said it is covered for surgeries and not hospitalization. Was a statement I issued. That is what I was saying. And furthermore, if the yojanas are being given, they ought to pay for the expenses which people incur during the treatment which they take in private hospitals or the government hospitals. It is mostly for the private hospitals, but they are not getting it. That is what I'm saying. It is for the surgeries. The private hospitals say it, not for the hospitalization, which is essential during the COVID-19 pandemic.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, we'll be recognizing the next speaker, and yeah.
I have a point of parliamentary inquiry. Can we raise a point of breach of privilege on an answer?
No, sir, you cannot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, with that, the next speaker. Tanaya, who's the next?
Oh, yes, it's Ashok Bajpayee.
So I have a point of parliamentary inquiry. Sir, can we raise a point of information on an answer?
Point of information on an answer? No.
Yes.
There cannot be a point to a point. What you can do is you can raise a point of information only to the original speech, and then once recognized, you can have your chance to ask for a plea to follow up.
Okay.
Thank you for recognition. The pandemic has been a harsh reality check for our country's healthcare system, with 2021 being one of the hardest years that witnessed death and loss on a massive scale. The Indian government spent about 1.35% of GDP on the healthcare system, while citizens bear almost 65% of the healthcare cost. This is a huge financial burden that prevents millions of Indians to have access to quality healthcare facilities. As per report by KPMG, about 75% of India's healthcare infrastructure and 74% of doctors are found in urban areas, leaving about 73% of people in rural areas lacking for even primary healthcare. Acknowledging the healthcare burden and vastly disproportionate urban-rural divide, it is safe to assume that for a long-term and impactful change, the government and private sector needs to work together. While both the public and private sectors have their advantages and fallacies, a strategic partnership that can get the best of both the parties together can actually be the answer to bridge the divide. Leveraging independent domain expertise, financial assistance, making healthcare affordable, access to technology, mapping areas of critical need, scalability. With the government's ability to provide scale and large subsidies, and the private sector bringing in the funds and expertise to deliver things at a scale and on time, a well-planned PPP is a route we should take to create a sustainable healthcare in an emerging economy such as India. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for Mr. Bajpayee? Yes, Malika Arjun Kharge, you have been recognized.
आपने बात करी कैसे प्राइवेट सेक्टर एक टाइम ऑन टाइम डिलीवरी करता है, बट वी हैव सीन विद मेनी रोड प्रोजेक्ट्स दैट the performance has not been up to the mark. The projects have often been stalled and delayed. What I would like to ask is, how will the government ensure in the healthcare system, in the model concession agreement, that a performance based incentive is given to the private players and they deliver up to the mark?
So then we can actually appoint like social organization or something that can act as a catalyst for this and act as unbiased and independent organization which can take a look and take the decision and make sure that private and public are working on up to the point and up to the mark, and there is no one's like not being like served what they like what is their need and all. Hope it answers. Thank you.
All right,
Need
thank
to
you.
follow up.
Not granted. Tanaya, do we have any other POI?
No, sir. No one has been recognized.
So I think with that we have elapsed the session.
No, sir. We have one more speaker left.
Okay, we have one more.
Yes, it's Prakash Javadekar.
Okay, Mr. Javadekar, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. I, Prakash Javadekar, would like to share with the House that both the public and private sectors have their advantages and fallacies, and a strategic partnership can actually be the answer to bridge the divide. The rural and urban populations of India have diametrically opposite experiences with healthcare. About 75% of healthcare infrastructure can be found in the urban areas, where only 27% of the Indian population resides. So PPP in healthcare has the potential to resolve the issues and ensure healthcare inclusion for the Indian masses. So here's how a PPP model can prove to be fruitful by bringing the expertise, the experience, management, finance, technology, efficiency, the specialist doctors. Simply put, the public-private partnership that work on a mass scale can help make services affordable while retaining quality standards. This would offer quality healthcare to all at an inexpensive price, helping better access to a wider strata of population. Some examples are the Karnataka's Yashaswini Cooperative Farmers Healthcare Scheme and Andhra Pradesh's Arogya Raksha Scheme, also the Uttaranchal Mobile Hospital and Research Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakashi. Are there any questions? Yeah. Oh, all right. Okay, Mallikarjun Kharge.
Madam, you talked about how most of the hospitals and other healthcare facilities are mostly stated in the urban areas. So what I would like to know from the government is that we have the ASHA workers. They were introduced during the UPA times, and what I would like to ask is, how does the government plan on to actually include them in the entire PPP healthcare model that we are talking about? Where do the community healthcare here fits? Because they are a major part of the rural healthcare system.
I would like to answer this by the chat. Is it okay?
Absolutely. Yes. Mallikarjun Kharge, what point are you raising?
I'm sorry, sir. I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, no problem. With that, we have come to an end of the session. I have got, I'm in receipt of 2 breach of privilege notices. One is from Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri to Mallikarjun Kharge. Mallikarjun Kharge ji said population ratio is below the WHO recommended limit.
Yes.
First of all, what is population ratio, Mr. Puri, Mr. Kharge?
Can I take that?
Yeah, Mr. Puri.
It is the number of doctors divided by the total number of doctors divided by the total population.
That is ratio, population ratio.
Yeah, that is what WHO defines as doctor population ratio.
No, the terminology that you're using here, ratio, population ratio, is it actually a terminology used by WHO?
Doctor population ratio.
Please refer to your notice.
There has been a mistake, sir. I beg your pardon.
about doctor population
Yeah,
ratio, correct?
doctor population ratio.
All right, Mr. Mallikarjun Khadge.
Yes, sir.
If you can present a report which directly contradicts the report shared by Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, I am inclined to disallow this breach of privilege. Otherwise, it will move forward.
Also, sir, I also had a breach of privilege on Induji's speech. So, shall I share it in the group or in the personal chat?
WhatsApp group, just like Mr. Puri.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. With that, the second breach of privilege is from Mr. Piyush Goyal to Kapil Sibal. The representative stated in his speech, PMJ Yojana, it does not cover hospitalization costs in private hospitals. This statement is misleading as it does cover both hospitalization and pre-hospitalization expenses. Mr. Sibal, did you say did you dispute this statement? Do you dispute this statement?
Just a minute, I'm not sure if I'm just reading it.
Okay.
No,
In the meantime, please verify from transcript if this is what Mr. Sibal said.
Should I send it via chat or should I just state it over
No,
here? So
I'm just asking you, do you dispute the statement that Mr. Piyush Goyal is referring to?
yes, of course. I was saying what I would like to clarify myself. What I said in my speech was that the private hospitals say it that way, that the PMJ Yojana does not cover hospitalization. It is the statement of the private hospitals to the poor people who come to the hospitals. That is what I was stating. It is not own personal statement.
That private hospitals have made a statement that the hospitalization cost is not covered under the PMJ Yojana.
Yes, sir.
All right. Have it verified. Adela, please verify it and get back to me. Yes, Mr. Piyush Goyal, tell me.
Yes, sir. So could I ask a follow-up question or a point of information?
You cannot ask a follow-up question on this. I'll straight away give my ruling once I have full information in hand. All right. Another breach of privilege that I'm in receipt of is from Mr. Khadge to Indubala Goswami. Srimati Goswami said national health policy aimed to increase the GDP expenditure to 2.5 of GDP by 2021, whereas the national health policy aimed to increase the GDP expenditure to 2.5% of GDP by 2025. Adila, please verify it in the transcript. Also, Mr. Khadge, please share the relevant excerpt from whichever statistical data you're referring to.
Yes, sir.
And then I'll see what has to be done. Next breach of privilege that I'm in receipt of is from Mr. GBL Narasimha Rao to Kapil Sibal. Sir, please quote and unquote the information. I'm not going to read this much information in the WhatsApp group. And then reshare your breach of privilege notice. With that, we have come to an end of the last discussion hour. Are there any points on the floor? Seeing none, are there any motions on the floor? Narayan Ade, followed by MJ Akbar, followed by Kapil Sibal. Yes, Mr. Narayan Ade, tell me.
Yes, sir.
What?
I would like to raise a motion for a discussion. So the topic for the discussion would be the impact and further expansion of PPP model, facilitating affordable quality education across rural and urban education system.
4-5 word ka notice rakho na, motion to rakho na. Why do you want to keep it so long?
Impact, okay, sir, I'll just re-amend it. The impact and further expansion of PPP models on the rural and urban education system.
Impact of expansion of PPP model in urban and rural education sector. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Basically, it's just about the integration of PPP
Noted
with
down,
education.
No? Impact of expansion of PPP model in rural and urban education sector. What is the total time and individual time?
So There should be 10 speakers where per speaker will speak for about 2 minutes. So the total time comes down to 20
Okay,
minutes.
noted. The next motion that we have is from
Sorry, sir, just to interrupt. What is the total time and the per speaker time?
2010. Total is, sorry, 22.
All right.
Total is, individual is 2. Yeah, 10 speakers. Next motion is from Mr. MJ Akbar.
Yes, a similar motion with a different time frame.
Yes.
15 speakers, 2 minutes each, total time 30 minutes.
Okay, Tanaya noted?
Yes.
Okay. Third was, who was the third person recognized? Kapil Sibal, right? Yeah, Mr. Sibal, please tell me a motion.
I would like to propose a motion to highlight the challenges faced by the PPP and propose solutions to make PPP more efficient. And total individual time.
Because both the challenges and solution in the same session.
Yes, challenges faced by the PPP and propose the solutions to make more efficient.
And solutions to triple P model. All right.
Yes, sir.
Challenges and solutions to triple P model. What is your total time and individual time?
Individual time is 120 seconds, total time 20 minutes.
Okay, same. 22. Okay. Now,
yes, sir. No.
So the total time period, what is the total time period for the second motion that we had?
30 minutes.
30 minutes, right? And individual time period was 2 minutes for that.
Yes.
That means 50. So we'll be going ahead with the second motion that we had. That is from, who proposed it?
MJ Akbar.
Yeah, from MJ Akbar. Please read out the motion, Tanaya.
Yeah, the motion is impact and further expansion of PPP model on the urban and rural education.
All right, we'll be able to accommodate 15 speakers. Members willing to support this motion, please raise your hand right now. You have got 5 seconds to cast your vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's all. Lower your hand, please. 11 members voted in favor. All those against, please raise your hand. Only 22 members have voted. What is the strength of the committee, Tanaya, right now? 32. That means about 27, 28 people, right?
Yes, sir, 27.
5, 6 people are still not voting. What the hell? Seriously. Why can't you just vote? How difficult it is for you to just raise your hand when a motion is being raised. We are going to do it one more time. Everyone lower your hand. Tanaya, please note this time. कौन वोट नहीं कर रहा है, जिसको वोट नहीं कर, जो वोट नहीं कर रहा उसको सर्टिफिकेट ही नहीं मिलेगा. ठीक है? I'm very serious right now. Tanaya, इस बार please check properly. देखो कौन वोट नहीं कर रहा. ठीक है? All those in favor, please raise your hand. सर्टिफिकेट के नाम पे अपने आप वोट्स आ गए. 16 members. Take a screenshot of these 16 members. Done, Tanaya?
Just a minute, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, lower your hand, everyone. सीमा द्विवेदी, निर्मला सीतारमन, हाथ नीचे करिए. All those against, raise your hand. Except the EB and OC members, how many members do we have, Tanaya?
Sir, we have 5 OC and 1 press. So 26 members right now.
All have voted, sir.
All have voted. ठीक है, चलो. 26 is the
Right.
current strength, right?
Yes.
Means our simple majority stand at 14, and 16 members voted in favor of it. All right, motion passed. ठीक है. Now we are in a discussion discussing the impact of expansion of the PPP model in rural and urban education sector. The total time period is 30 minutes. Individual time period is 2 minutes, by virtue of which we can accommodate 15 speakers. Mr. MJ Akbar, would you like to be the first speaker?
Yes, sir.
All right. Members willing to speak, please raise your hand. Tanaya, please recognize.
Sure, sir. Seema Trivedi, followed by Narayan Rane, followed by Nirmala Sitaraman, followed by Mahesh Jetmalani, Indu Bala Goswami, Vinay Tendulkar, Derek O'Brien, Hardeep Singh Puri, Piyush Goyal, GVL Narasimha Rao. Please lower hands if recognized. Malika Arjun Kharge, KC Venugopal. That's also I have recognized others. Vivek Thakur, Ashok Bajpai, yes, sir. All have been recognized so far. The ones who have raised. Mahesh Jetmalani, I have recognized. Karan, were you able to make a note of it?
Okay, you didn't ask me to make a note of it, but anyway, I have missed after Indu Bala Goswami and after Piyush Goyal, I made a note.
Okay, anyways, I have made a note of it, so I'll just. So we can start with the first speaker. Mihir, sir.
Just give me.
Sure, sir.
Yes, tell me.
So we can start with the first speaker. It's Seema.
Yeah. Please do that.
Isn't MJ Akbar before me or?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. MJ. MJ Akbar, you could start.
Yes, I think timer is on. Can you reset it?
Adela, could you please reset the timer?
Yeah. Education is the movement from the darkness to light. Youths of this country have been in dark for a long time. It is time that we members of this committee help them to bring them in light. Numerous reports and think tanks have reported the inefficiency of our education system. Higher education is stagnated in the country. 48% of the engineers are unemployed. So undoubtedly, the present system needs to be changed. Now let me substantiate why PPP model. In 1992, in Minnesota, US, charter schools were formed which were run by private players but publicly funded. In return of their flexibility and autonomy, they must meet the accountability standards outlined in their charter. These were on per student basis. Today, there are 6,000 schools covering 6% of the students in the country. Now, if you think this has been possible in US because it is a developed country, then let me tell you a similar system that has been introduced in Australia and Greece. In Greece, 24 schools were built covering 6,500 students in 10 municipalities. This project was executed under Special Vehicle Fund SPV created between government and private players. Another problem which Indian education system faces is that teachers get local political protection. Politicians use them at their own disposal. A system should be created where the teachers are independent from this web and they should be accountable only to bureaucrats. This being a social sector, I can understand that people have fear that private sector will monopolize it and it will eventually be difficult for poor people to get access to education. This concern is legitimate and is understood by the government. Therefore, in this sector, we will again gradually proceed and it will be executed on trial basis and in phases. Government will respect the concerns of the people and will also request the people to trust them on the decision-making processes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Are you willing to have the questions?
Yes, yes.
Sure. Are there any questions? All right. KC Venugopal, followed by Mallikarjun.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are. Please go ahead.
Hello, hi sir. You talk about engineers, the unemployed engineers. Sir, don't you think you are advocating for education, but at the same time there is high level of unemployment in the country? So how does providing education to the youth going to solve unemployment? I don't see a relation in it. Can you please explain?
Yeah, just a second. Yes, one of the major reasons why youth is unemployed is because of the structure in the courses which we have today in the education system. Today,
right,
the youths are not getting the skills and education in the colleges which are required in practical field. The companies need those engineers who have the practical knowledge, and which our courses are not providing them. So somewhere education system is one of the reason why youths are unemployed.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, Mallikarjun Kharge, you can go ahead.
सर आपने अपनी पिछली स्पीच में मेंशन किया था कि हेल्थ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में किस प्रकार कई चीजों पे टैक्स फ्री होना चाहिए. What is your stand on education in this, considering that private players will come into play? तो कितना रहना चाहिए गवर्नमेंट का टैक्स इस पे, और क्या रहना भी चाहिए?
This will require intricate discussions with our bureaucracies, and definitely I feel education should have lower tax, a minimum tax if possible, and our think tanks and other organizations will work upon them.
So please to follow up.
Yes sir, granted.
सर आपको नहीं लगता कि अब आप ये थोड़ा लेट बोल रहे हैं, कंसिडरिंग कि एनईपी हाल फिलहाल में पिछले 2-3 सालों में ही आई है, तो तब इस बात को क्यों नहीं उठाया गया, कंसिडरिंग कि उसमें प्राइवेट कोलैबोरेशंस की बात करी गई है, लेकिन टैक्सेशन की क्या बात होगी, ये क्यों नहीं बात?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it again?
Yes, sure. सर मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि आपने कहा कि ये इंट्रिकेट डिसीजन है और उसमें काफी डिस्कशंस लग रही है, तो मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि पिछले 2-3 साल में ही नेशनल न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी लाई गई सरकार द्वारा, तो इसमें जब प्राइवेट कोलैबोरेशन की बात करी जा रही है, पीपीपी की बात करी जा रही है एजुकेशन में, तो साथ में टैक्सेशन की बात क्यों नहीं करी गई तभी?
I would like to respond via chat.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Moving on to the next speaker, Srimati Seema Dwivedi, over to you.
Thank you.
Ma'am, I have a point of personal privilege.
Yes, sir.
Could you paste the speaker's order in the chat box? That would be really nice.
Sure, sir. Give me a minute. Yeah. Seemaji, you could start.
Thank you. The education education system is in the need of a conducive learning environment which will initiate socio-economic development of the country. The government school system is in need of urgent improvement. The private operators can introduce socio-emotional learning, critical and higher order thinking, and grade level competency amongst children. The innovative school management techniques empower youth with employability skills, research temperament, and subject matter expertise. The school management and school adoption PPP models have been experimented in various government-aided schools through the Punjab Adarsh Model School Scheme, the Rajasthan Education Initiative, the Municipal Corporation of Great Mumbai's PPP policy, the Gujarat PPP policy as well. The Ministry of Education has been functional in the development of indices to track progress and infuse healthy competition among states to improve education. Along with the Pyramid Foundation, it takes up policy issues in the field of education to formulate recommendations through extensive research and consultations. It also facilitates program level interventions to develop proof of concept to improve quality of education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. All right. Are there any questions for Seemaji? What point do you raise, sir? Hardeep Singh Puri?
Sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
All right. Are there any questions to Seema Trivedi? All right. Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next speaker. The next speaker is Shri Narayan Rani.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Let me begin. So, public-private partnership, PPP, in school education provides the opportunity for private sector to partner with the government to improve the quality of school education service delivery in India. Let us acknowledge the evolution of PPPs in education in India and define the need and the opportunity for the whole school model of the PPP implementation. The government has implemented a number of measures to ensure that all children between the ages of 6 and 14 have access to educational opportunities in order to address the issue of the high dropout rate and bring out of school children into the picture. By introducing programs like the midday meals, school adoption programs, and inviting private industry to get involved with them, it has attempted to make going to school seem more appealing. Furthermore, I would like to emphasize that to increase access and quality in education, the state of India has experimented with a number of PPP models, starting with the government-aided schools. These include the Gujarat PPP policy, the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai's PPP policy, the Punjab Adarsh Model School Scheme, and the Rajasthan Education Initiative, the Model School Program of the federal government, to name a few. PPPs that are well crafted can produce innovative school systems in India. PPPs in education are being investigated and put into practice by a number of governments at the federal, state, and local levels. Let me tell you a few impacts of this. This increases the access to school. Since nearly everyone has universal access to elementary education now, the emphasis on the educational system is now shifting to improve the quality of outcomes. PPPs can broaden the government's system ability to give toddlers, children, and the youth their right and access to education. To conclude, I would like to focus on improving the quality of education, where the private companies are able to bring cutting-edge pedagogical and school management methods to the public sector through their PPPs, helping to establish models of excellence. New standards of excellence are introduced, and it has been observed in other nations as well. And this increases the level of debate about the quality of education that we provide. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Are there any questions for Narayan? Yeah. I'll be recognizing KC Venugopal, followed by Sharad Pawar.
Hello.
Yes, sir. You're audible.
So you gave a very inspiring speech and gave such great examples. But sir, I would like to know how much you know about it. Can you tell me what is the selection process of private operators who will be educating the youth of this country, the toddlers, like framing their mindset at the very beginning?
With your permission, ma'am, I would like to answer this question.
Sure, sir. Please go.
Sure. Sir, let me walk you through this cakewalk process of selecting the operator. So basically, the operator is supposed to be selected through open and competitive bidding. Taken into account, we take project parameters such as fees, the government support, and the price indexation as well. So here the bidders will be required to state the grant they wish to seek from the government, and then the bidder will be quoting from the lowest grant or the highest premium, whatever he chooses and deems to be fit, and that would win the grant. But this is not the this is kind of subject to a maximum viability gap funding that is obviously 40% of the project cost. Do you want me to expand more on this? I would like to answer you more about this via the chat. So if there's anything, you can ask me about it. Thank you. I hope that satisfies your answer.
Thank you so much, sir. No, sir. Yeah. All right, Sharat, over to you.
Thank you, respected Chair. First of all, I would like to say great speech and all, but there are really pertaining issues I need to ask. Like, wouldn't triple P in education policy lead to the commercialization and privatization, which is basically using the public funds? And also, wouldn't it be bad as there's basically no social control over the education in the triple P model as stated in the 11th plan?
All right. With your permission, ma'am, I would like to answer this question.
Sir, please.
So as you talk about the guarantee and how it influences, I think you are missing out various other important things here. You being in the opposition, I am very sure this implementation of PPP strengthens the accountability that you hold against the government system as well. To elaborate on the subject, PPP schools operate under strict performance standards, obviously, so they have so they can introduce greater accountability into the government school system. Here the parents as well as the learners, they can expect clearer measurement of education standards, and the private and the government school systems have to respond to the great demand for accountability. So there may be drawbacks, but then there are also checks and balances which have been put in place for those drawbacks not to come out. I hope you understand, and I hope my answer has been sufficient for your needs.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Moving on to the next speaker. The next speaker recognized is Nirmala Sitharaman. Over to you, ma'am.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I'll start in a...
Yeah. 1 second. Adila, could you please reset the timer? Yes, ma'am. You can start.
No. Specifically coming out to implementation of PPP in education sector, the state should endeavor to identify special education zones in their states to improve the access to the higher education for the socio-economic disadvantaged group and to solve the problem of rural urban gap. And how do they do under the PPP model? The Niti Aayog has very recently carried out a very good study on this particular map, where they recommend that setting up a joint task force for Department of School Education and Department of Women Child Development in each state would solve this particular matter. This is one of the forefront policy which will try to solve the problem of the dropout rate, which is at 17.9% at the higher alarming, and also the GER drops, which have been significantly dropped from 79.6% at secondary level to 58.56%. Now, identifying these dropouts that have happened, the public-private partnerships can facilitate where the way in which vocational education courses at secondary level will be carried out in all such districts in these economic zones. In addition to this, identifying the geographical areas in the state to be where the special education zones have an access of providing them an apprenticeship is also a forefront policy that the government has recommended on first hand. In addition to this, the government has also had policies with respect to the Kausal Vikas Yojana. The PMKVY had certain criticisms which we recognize to be fair. That is, the franchise model that works required additional revenue somewhere around 30 to 70%. In order to solve this, the government has the initiative of conducting and facilitating the skill gap index across each district with the help of the state governments, and to appoint a state skill committee which will be developing the mission of this implementation. In addition to this, it should involve the district collectors with all the private institutions over there and the upcoming private players to solve the problem. The district level information commission and the monitoring that needs to be done through data For that, equally, we can facilitate private players, which will obviously bring the capital as well as give us a comprehensive skill to understand and address the problems in the education system at the state level. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. All right. Are there any questions for Nirmala Sitharaman? Okay. I'll be recognizing Mallikarjun Kharge. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. निर्मला जी, मेरा आपसे यह सवाल है कि रूरल एजुकेशन में मोस्टली दो प्रोमिनेंट गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स हैं. पहला कस्तूरबा गांधी स्कूल फॉर वुमेन एंड राजीव गांधी नव विद्यालय. अब मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहता हूँ कि क्या नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी जो आई उसमें क्या प्लान है गवर्नमेंट का पीपीपी को इन स्कूल्स में इनकलकेट करने का, कंसीडरिंग दे हैव अ वेरी प्रोमिनेंट रोल इन द रूरल एजुकेशन.
Ma'am, can the first part of the question be translated?
Sure. So what I was saying that there are two prominent government schools right now that play a very important part in the rural education. The first is Rajiv Gandhi Nava Vidyalaya and the second is Kasturba Gandhi Schools for Women. So what I wanted to ask is how is the government planning on to fit the public-private partnerships in these schools? What have they meant? What is their plan in respect to the new education policy that they have implemented?
Number one, you very carefully left two other categories of schools, which is the Ekalavya models as well as the Sainik schools, which is run by the central government very deliberately. But let me keep that aside. The point is, under the current national education policy, we are not specifically trying anywhere where the state-run schools or the state-funded institutions will directly involve public-private partnership. They will involve public-private partnerships at a strategic level, say for example, in terms of providing certain food or in terms of providing certain books and materials to students. That is where the PPP model will come into play, and that is dealt at the local level. There is no unilateral position that the current government takes with respect to having a PPP model under state-sponsored or state-funded institutions, because at the end of the day, the moment we say that these institutions are owned by the government, we understand for the matter of fact they are funded by the government. I believe you had a kind of sense of basic economics, but your questions do not fit the paradigm. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, so I'll be recognizing the next speaker. The next speaker is Mahesh Jetmalani. Over to you, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, thank you for giving me a chance to speak. Well, we can see the timelines and well, we can say that education is really important part for being a country to be successful because it shapes the youth. Well, we definitely need some changes and reforms in education system. As we can see that the number of Indian students studying abroad has almost doubled over the years. Well, by March 2022, the number had increased to 1.32 million people. And so we need public-private partnerships so that we can, build good institutions with research centers and develop the skills of these people who actually want to study abroad. Well, we can see that just by implementing this model, we are able to build a Stanford College in Noida. Now,
Respected Chair, I would like to raise a point of personal privilege.
Yes,
Yes, I cannot hear. It's Shri Mahesh Jetmalani ji is not audible enough and the voice is lagging.
Yeah, I can hear
comprehensible.
Yeah, it's
I'm
same
sorry,
for
is
all.
my voice lagging?
Okay, so you were not audible. Could you please start again?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, Adela, please. Thank you so much. Please start. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can say that education is a really integral part in developing our youth and shaping a country to be successful. Well, we definitely need some major reforms in our education system because there are many students, Indian students, who are going abroad to study just because they are not able to find quality education in India. Well, through public-private partnership, we could partner with many of the foreign education institutions and develop some sort of twinning model just so that they can build the institutions in India and so Indian students can stay in India, which would definitely prevent brain drain. Well, just to quote some numbers, giving boost to the government's efforts, 48 foreign universities responded to the University Grants Commission new regulation and guidelines for twinning and joint degree and dual degree programs within India and foreign universities. Also, well-designed PPE model can help a lot of students who should think of dropping out, not dropping out. Well, we can see that number of students who are dropping out is increasing year by year, and it takes during COVID. We really need to do something so that it doesn't continue.
Mr. Mahesh Milani, you're not audible.
Okay, I'll repeat what I said.
Yeah, you could just continue, please.
Okay. Beginning with government-aided schools, the state experimented with various forms of PPE to improve access and quality education. These schools include Punjab Adarsh Model School System, the Rajasthan Education Initiative, the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai's PPE policy, the Gujarat PPE policy, and the central government's model school system. Given the current interest in PPE in India, the reports examine the whole school system and adoption of PPP, which are the two models with the most potential to create impact. In the school management model, private operators take on the management of schools, including the hiring of teachers. In contrast, in the schools of adoption model, private operations work with existing government teachers to improve the quality of schools, despite the vast potential of PPP. Okay. Despite the vast potentials of PPP in India, we need to focus on the implementation. That's all.
All right, yeah, thank you. Are there any questions for Mahesh ji? Okay, I'll be taking Kapil Simple followed by Sharath.
Thank you for the recognition. My question is that since PPP models is very good for the education system, I would like you, sir, to explain and shed light on what is the government planning on the rates of the fees which they'll be charging. Because since it is a PPP model, of course, the rates will be higher, the fees charge will be higher, and that would lead to inequality to the access of education, which would further lead to unequal freedom to speech, because not all of the people will be getting the quality education which the students who have come from an advantaged background will be getting. So wouldn't that propagate to the future inequality?
Okay, can I answer this question?
Yes, sir.
There are many institutions right now where girls studying it well don't really have to pay any fees. Government pays their fees. We can actually make schemes targeted to these private public schools and institutions where the fees is split in half, or we can state a standard rate above which private institutions can't charge fees.
All right, thank you, sir. The next question is from Sharath Pawar.
Thank you, respected chair, for the recognition. From whatever I could comprehend, despite all the disturbances being there, I wanted to ask Shri Mahesh Jetmalani ji, how will a well-designed PPP model prevent students from dropping out? Can you please shed light on that?
A lot of students are also dropping out because of social factors, but also they are dropping out because they are not getting quality education. Their teachers aren't well trained in schools. There aren't really much of, infrastructure is not really that great. So if we focus on developing those aspects, I feel like we should encourage students to, continue to stay in school and get education.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so we'll be moving on to the next speaker, and it is Indubala Goswami.
Yes.
One second, ma'am, one second. What point do you raise, Sir Mallikarjun Kharge?
The point of parliamentary inquiry.
Yes, sir. What is it?
मैडम actually मैंने एक breach of privilege उठाया था और उसके रिप्लाई में मैडम इंदु बाला गोस्वामी ने रिप्लाई दिया है कि उन्होंने कोई और स्टेटमेंट दी थी और मैंने कुछ और सुना है. So I request the executive board to kindly look into the verbatim once, if possible.
All right, sir. We'll be definitely looking into the verbatim and get back to you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much. Yes, Indu Bala Goswami, ma'am, you could go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So it is advocated that joint production of goods and services as certain efficiency equity in the economy. So the Ministry of HRD is also promoting the PP model to accelerate quality and excellence in the Indian school education. So there is an ongoing process to set block level schools at every level of the state. So the objectives of the level is to set up at least one good quality senior secondary school in a 6,000 block states of a country. The second objective is to expand the coverage of quality school education. Third is to focus on the provision of quality education to the rural section with the help of setting up of the PP model schools there. We also promote for the educationally backward blocks under the state on duty government to promote rural education. Our annual report of 2014 and 15 also included and highlighted the importance of PP. World Bank has also been promoting the PP model in the education field. PP needs not to be necessarily mean only seeking private investment to supplement government efforts, but also to encourage innovative and education skills. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Are you open for questions?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any questions for Indu Bala Goswami? Unfortunately, seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next speaker. And
we have remaining.
Some more 9 speakers are remaining.
9 speakers are waiting, right?
Yes.
All right, please move forward. Yeah. Before that, when do we break for lunch?
So according to the itinerary, it is 1 p.m. But I mean, it's on your discretion.
All right, let's do one thing. Let's end these 9 speeches and then break out for lunch.
All right, so well. Okay, so the next speaker is Hardeep Singh. Over to you, sir.
माननीय सभापति महोदय, जो एजुकेशन सेक्टर की जो प्रॉब्लम है वो रूरल एरियाज में और अर्बन एरियाज में अलग अलग है. रूरल एरियाज में प्रॉब्लम ये है कि टीचर्स होते ही नहीं है. मोस्ट गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में टीचर नहीं होते. तो इसका एक बहुत अच्छा सोल्यूशन हमारे दो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स ने निकाला है. एक है हरियाणा में चीफ मिनिस्टर मनोहर लाल खट्टर जी ने 5 लाख गवर्नमेंट रूरल स्टूडेंट्स को टैबलेट्स दिए हैं. और यही सेम चीज मध्य प्रदेश में भी हुई है, जिसके थ्रू ऑनलाइन मॉड्यूल्स के थ्रू ये जो रूरल किड्स हैं ये एजुकेशन को, हाई क्वालिटी एजुकेशन को एक्सेस कर सकते हैं. अर्बन सेक्टर में जो प्रॉब्लम है वो है कि बहुत ही कम एज से बच्चों को बहुत टारगेट ओरिएंटेड कर दिया जाता है. हमें ये पता है कि 14 साल की उम्र तक जनरल एजुकेशन दी जानी चाहिए, लेकिन ये नहीं हो पाता बिकॉज कंपटीशन बहुत ज्यादा है. तो इसके लिए हम एक चाहते हैं कि होम स्कूलिंग पॉलिसी 2nd क्लास तक प्रमोट की जाए ताकि बच्चे घर पे रह के पढ़ सकें. हमारे प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने 400 एकलव्य मॉडल स्कूल्स इन ट्राइबल एरियाज का प्रपोजल रखा है, जो कि बाय 2022 ऑपरेशनलाइज हो जाएंगे. इसमें हमने कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी के थ्रू प्राइवेट फंडिंग अचीव करी है. हमारा जो एडटेक सेक्टर है, इट इज प्रोजेक्टेड टू बी वर्थ $30 बिलियन बाय 2030. तो हम इसका भी अच्छे तरीके से इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं rather than investing more in teachers. We can invest here in the edtech sector ताकि रूरल सेक्टर में भी हमें वो डेवलपमेंट मिल सके. By achieving economies of scale, we can reduce the per capita price of the technology that we are providing. In America, there is a thing called land grant university, where universities को land दी जाती है and they can use it. The top land grant universities are within the top 10 universities anywhere in the world. Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Columbia, John Hopkins, ये सारी land grant universities है. तो मैं चाहूंगा कि इंडिया में भी ये स्कीम इम्प्लीमेंट हो. अगर येल NUS बन सकता है, अगर NYU अबू धाबी बन सकता है, तो हार्वर्ड रूरकी भी बन सकता है. हमें इसके तरफ भी पॉलिसी बनाने की तरफ देखना चाहिए। लास्ट चीज मैं एक चीज बोलना चाहूंगा, शरद पवार जी ने एक सवाल पूछा था कि आप प्राइवेटाइज, जस्ट लास्ट पॉइंट, वन पॉइंट आई एम मेकिंग। शरद पवार जी ने मेंशन करा था कि प्राइवेटाइज क्यों करना चाहते हैं आप एजुकेशन को। ये बहुत बड़ी हिपोक्रेसी है हम पॉलिटिशियंस की कि हम अपने बच्चों को तो प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशंस में पढ़ाना चाहते हैं, हमारे बच्चों को तो हम चाहते हैं कि वो हार्वर्ड में, MIT में, माननीय सुप्रिया सुले जी खुद अमेरिका में प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटीज में पढ़ी हुई है, लेकिन शरद पवार जी बोल रहे हैं कि हमारे गरीब बच्चों को क्यों प्राइवेट एजुकेशन। बिकॉज ये प्रूव हो चुका है कि प्राइवेट एजुकेशन के अपने फायदे हैं और गवर्नमेंट के पास इतना पैसा नहीं है कि हम सबको रीच कर सके क्वालिटी। That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, are there any questions? Okay, so I'll be recognizing KC Venugopal followed by Kapil Singh.
Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
सर, जब बोलते हैं कि गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में टीचर नहीं होते ही नहीं है, तो आप अराउंड रफली 3 लाख पर एनम सैलरी किसको देते हैं, और आपका जो बजट है 1.04 लाख करोड़ वो कहाँ जाता है? कैन यू इलैबोरेट ऑन दैट प्लीज?
Yes, I would love to elaborate on that. That is the point. हम 3 लाख रुपए दे रहे हैं, लेकिन हमें क्या उसके बदले में सर्विसेज मिल रही हैं? नहीं मिल रही, बिकॉज जो टीचर जिनको हम सैलरी दे रहे हैं वो पहुंच ही नहीं पा रहे। वही तो मेन दिक्कत है कि जब इंस्पेक्शन होता है तो पता चलता है कि टीचर 280 से 300 जो ऑपरेशनल दिन होते हैं उसमें से हार्डली 15-20 दिन आता है और बाकी दिन वो आते ही नहीं है। तो आप फिर सोचिए बच्चों का क्या हाल होगा।
All right, thank you. Okay, so the next question is from Kapil Singh.
Thanks for the recognition. Sir, you stated that tabs were provided to the students in the rural areas for them to get the access to education. But sir, what have you done for the students to get an access to the net, which is really essential for them to access the lectures on the tab?
जी, अभी 2 दिन पहले प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी ने भारत नेट योजना लॉन्च की है, which says by 2025 every village in India will have optical fiber 5G network. 4G network optical fiber almost 90% of गांव में already है। ग्राम पंचायत are connected to us via 4G optical fiber और वाईफाई सर्विसेज भी अवेलेबल हैं, और मोबाइल डेटा भी आफ्टर गवर्नमेंट्स न्यू पॉलिसीज बहुत ज्यादा इनएक्सपेंसिव हो चुकी हैं। सो आई डोंट थिंक सो गांव में नेटवर्क इज नॉट एन इशू एनीमोर।
All right, thank you so much, sir. Moving on to the next speaker, is Mallikarjun Kharge. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. सबसे पहले हरदीप जी ने पिछले उसमें पॉइंट उठाया कि उन्होंने टैबलेट्स दिए, काफी अच्छा इनिशिएटिव है, नो डाउट। बट मैं ये पूछना चाहूंगा कि हर एक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डिवाइस की एक लिमिट होती है, एक एज लिमिट होती है, आप कब तक चलाएंगे? तो आपको नहीं लगता कि, मैं ये मानता हूँ कि एक फ्रेमवर्क बनाना चाहिए स्टूडेंट्स का, और उसमें नोट होना चाहिए और उसके हिसाब से उन्हें बार बार प्रोवाइड करते रहना चाहिए, क्योंकि इन सारी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डिवाइसेस की एक एज लिमिट होती है। उसके बाद वो बच्चा क्या करेगा, उसकी ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन का क्या होगा? सेकेंडली सर, हरदीप जी ने ये भी बोला कि इनएक्सपेंसिव हो गया है आजकल मोबाइल डेटा। यदि आप 2 मेजर डोमिनेंट फोर्सेस को देखें हमारे टेलीकॉम मार्केट की, जो कि एयरटेल है और जियो है, दोनों के रिचार्ज आज 2019 लेवल से काफी ज्यादा हाई है। मैडम, थर्डली हमें 2 चीजें देखनी पड़ेंगी यहाँ पे। पहला, पीपीपी, हम पीपीपी स्कूल्स बना रहे हैं सरकार जो हमारी, और दूसरा हम प्राइवेट सर्विसेज दे रहे हैं एग्जिस्टिंग गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में। अब जो प्राइवेट सर्विसेज दी जाएंगी एग्जिस्टिंग गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में, वो प्योरली मैनेजमेंट बेसिस होनी चाहिए, जैसे कि स्कूल की साफ सफाई, स्कूल का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, लेकिन टीचिंग मेथोडोलॉजी और पूरी जो है उसे एग्जिस्टिंग सिस्टम को इम्प्रूव करना चाहिए। मॉनिटरिंग स्ट्रिक्ट होनी चाहिए टीचर्स की, ताकि हमारा सिस्टम यहाँ पे ज्यादा एफिशिएंट हो। ऐसा ना हो कि पीपीपी बनाने के चक्कर में हम अपने एग्जिस्टिंग स्कूल्स को वो एकदम अबॉलिश कर दें। सर, मैडम, दूसरी बात करी गई पीपीपी स्कूल्स की, जो मैं बात करना चाहूंगा वो ये है कि इनमें हमें इंश्योर करना होगा कि हम एक एनुइटी पे करें अपने प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स को। मॉडल कंसेशन एग्रीमेंट में एक क्लॉज ऐड किया जाए ताकि हम मेक श्योर करें कि वो लॉस में ना जाएं और एक डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट ट्रेंड हमें देखने को ना मिले इस सेक्टर में। थैंक यू।
Thank you so much. Points well noted. Okay, I'll be considering the question from Nirmala Sitaraman.
Sir, given the fact that the government currently has not recognized a single public school or public education enterprise to be disinvested, why are you suggesting that we need to get onto a contract with respect to disinvestment?
Sir, I guess you missed out the context in which I was talking about, in the context that I was talking about in terms of disinvestment. What I was talking is that we should not, the government should not entirely focus on the PPP model, but rather should also focus on the current education institutions and the government schools that we have. That is all that I was saying.
Ma'am, a point of parliamentary inquiry before I have a plea to follow up.
Yes.
Ma'am, didn't Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge specifically say the word disinvestment in his speech when in the last part of speech regarding education sector?
Yes, I did, but that was in a completely different context.
Okay, ma'am, a plea to follow up.
Yeah.
Sir, again coming to that specific point, you are primarily objecting privatization of education sector, and you have continuously for the past 1.5 days objected privatization of various sectors, including PPP models. Right now, if privatization has to not if you do not first you want first and object privatization, what is the point for recommending disinvestment there? Given the fact there is no question of stake that is owned by the government.
I was first of all not talking about the disinvestment by the state. In the last part of my speech, I clearly said that we need to make sure that we give a certain amount of incentive or some sort of incentive to the private players. Otherwise, they will start disinvesting in the education sector and the PPP model will fail. Secondly, sir, you talked about the privatization. I specifically mentioned in my speech that the current infrastructure needs to be well funded and monitored to make it more efficient. And new, if you want to establish new schools with the totally PPP structure, you can do that.
All right. Thank you so much. Moving on, the next speaker is Derek O'Brien. Over to you, sir.
Can I begin?
Yes.
The implementation of the PPP model in education sector will be gradual. The revamping of the current schools into better infrastructured schools would take time. Such big moves like building the infrastructure and providing quality of the education would take a prolonged period. So until then, I propose that PPP must be implemented in a different way. Not only private companies must be linked with the government schools, but also the private schools with well-to-do infrastructure and well-to-do funds can be linked with the ongoing government functioning schools, so that they can get this entire idea is actually inspired from a small project called as Kalam project. In this activities like science on wheels, government schools which cannot afford attached washroom definitely cannot afford a laboratory. So science on wheels is one of the ideas which can provide quality education in which a bus is converted into a science laboratory. Until and unless such schools can actually afford this quality of education, this can be a short-term fix. And this short-term fix can help the students currently studying to not miss out on the quality of the education that is going to come up in the further years.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Are there any questions for Derek O'Brien? Okay. I'll be taking Hardeep Singh Puri.
Derek Saab, आप ये बताइए, what is your party and your government in West Bengal doing about the teacher recruitment scandal? How much money is involved here? 40 crores, 60 crores, all of it is still not recovered. And please,
actually,
what is the action?
I'll be answering this through chat. Is that all right with you?
Ma'am, can I insist he answer it on the floor of the house? This is a very important issue.
Unfortunately, no, sir. It is on his disposition and he wants to answer it, so it's all right.
Okay, ma'am. I'll respect this.
Thank you so much. Moving on to the next speaker, and it's Piyush Goyal. Over to you, sir.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, you're audible.
Education, like healthcare, is a social service and its provision is one of the primary roles of the government. But when the governments are constrained by limited resources to adequately serve the overgrowing population through public funding alone, PPPs serve as a best model to ensure effective reach of quality education services in the population. In January 2008, the Asian Development Bank noted that education in India was lagging behind its economic growth with only 12,000 training and vocational institutes. This was a miserable condition back then under the UPA government. The NDA government advocates for the PPP model in this sector. Usual practices in the education sector have been the BOT model. It can be operated through viability, gap funding, and annuity.
Sir Piyush Goyal, you're not audible. So you're still not audible. Yes, you're audible. Please continue.
Okay. So through PP in education, we can outsource the construction and management of the facility, but retain control to monitor the quality of services and curriculum of the students. In an outstanding move, the Bharatiya Janata Party in Gujarat has implemented a new policy that will promote residential schools of excellence through PPP and has already shortlisted 70 applicants for the project. While the entire capital cost will be borne by the project partner, the education department will provide financial assistance for meeting recurring costs through a lump sum amount of Rs 60,000 per child. In India, PPPs also serve as one of the service providers of early childhood education alongside government pre-primary grades, the most common example of which is the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai's Education Department. Our government, with the revolutionizing national education policy, aims to develop the education sector tremendously over the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. All right. Are there any questions for Piyush Goyal? Okay, I'll be asking Binoy Vishwam to, you can ask the questions.
Thank you, Chair. As you mentioned that PPP model is the way forward. However, the PPP model provides no government or social control over education. It will lead to the privatization and commercialization of education using public funds, which would deprive the underprivileged children getting access to quality education. So what would you like to say about this?
Ma'am, can I answer?
Yes, sir. Yeah, please.
Okay. So first of all, it is PP has several models, and through all of them, the control of the education institutions does not go completely to private hands. Like the example I gave about the Gujarat government's residential schools, there the funding for the child's education is totally done by the government, whereas the construction and all that is done by the partner. So there are various models for operation of PPP. It is not equivalent to complete privatization. I hope I've satisfied the question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for the answer. Moving on to the next speaker, we have Mr. Narasimha Rao. Over to you, sir. Mr. Narasimha Rao, are you there in the committee?
Hello.
Yes, sir. You're audible. Please go on.
First of all, public-private partnerships in associations and education have been used to provide the framework through which the public and private sector together complement each other's strength in the financing as well as the provisions of deciding what goes in the education ever since across the world. So it is not a new phenomenon, and it is not the first time this is debated. PPP has been widely applied to the delivery of education facilities to strengthen equity and access through demand-side financial schemes. What does this mean? When you want to create a school in a neighborhood, you have to also realize that the neighborhood must be affluent enough or must have this much amount of purchasing power to be able to send their kids to the school, which will take this many cost. Basically, this is the whole how cost and expenditure works. So this is where the private players step in, which come to take the risk side of the things, while the government can handle the debt. Now, this can lead to effectiveness of the government funds. As we all know, in major metropolitan cities across Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad, Bangalore, a lot of government schools are just lying to waste. Their infrastructure, their assets, everything is just there because a lot of people don't really would like to send their kids to the school. In fact, a lot of my fellow opposition members wouldn't want their kids to go in such public schools, correct? So what needs to be done? Basically, we need the effectiveness and the infrastructure building capabilities of the private sector. Finally, this PPP model doesn't just incorporate, say, primary and secondary strata of education, but also tertiary. In Germany, you have public and private sector complementing, as in the private sector providing training and vocational education to the freshers and the students fresh out of college for better management and application of their own theoretical studies. So this is also something that can be implemented. With that, I'd like to end my speech.
Thank you so much, sir. Are there any questions for Mr. Narasimha Rao? All right, I'll be recognizing Mallikarjun. Over to you, sir.
थैंक यू मैडम। नरसिम्हा राव जी, जैसा कि पहले आपके भी गवर्नमेंट के काफी लोग रिकॉग्नाइज कर चुके हैं, मैं भी अपनी स्पीच में बोल चुका हूं कि टीचर्स नहीं आते, बहुत इनएफिशिएंसी है पूरे सिस्टम में। पर क्या गवर्नमेंट के पास कोई प्लान है कि वो कैसे मॉनिटर करने वाले हैं इस इनएफिशिएंसी को, कैसे वो नजर रखेंगे और एक स्ट्रिक्ट प्रोविजन बनाएंगे जिससे कि एक एफिशिएंट और एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन दिखे इन स्कूल्स में?
Okay. May I answer the question, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Please go on.
Shri Mallikarjun ji, this doesn't just define or go till it is limited to the education system or the education sector. This is for basically a lot of strata of sectors. You cannot sit down physically and go and administer each and every project. So how do you do it? There is something known as accountability, right? You have a leverage against the private companies, you have the leverage against the private corporations कि आपको ये काम दिया है and हम आपको पेमेंट करेंगे, या आपके पास ये रिस्क मिटिगेशन होगा, तो इसके ऊपर काम होगा. Why does public sector doesn't work? Because the whole concept of accountability isn't there, correct? So we will have to realize that unless and until we want a proper utilization of our, what you talked about, our assets and put down efficiency, we'll have to involve parts of private sector. Parts, I said, not complete.
I'm pleased to follow up.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
सर, क्योंकि मैंने स्पेसिफिकली अपने क्वेश्चन में मेंशन किया था कि टीचर्स नहीं आते, ये एक काइंड ऑफ इनएफिशिएंसी है, तो क्या आप सजेस्ट कर रहे हैं कि अभी जो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स हैं उनमें अब प्राइवेट कंपनीज के थ्रू टीचर्स हायर होंगे, और अगर ऐसे तो जो नेशनल एलिजिबिलिटी टेस्ट होता है, यूजीसीईटी होता है, उसका क्या होगा?
Okay, I mean, I'll only repeat what my fellow party member said some few minutes ago. because you literally asked this question, right? So coming back to it, okay, there are different models on how teachers can be selected, right? What you mentioned is one of the PPP model. I think isse pehle three fellow party members are already repeated this line to this very question. So yeah.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah, moving on to the next speaker. The next speaker recognized is Vinay Tendulkar. Over to you, sir.
Honorable Chair, education is a societal duty and the responsibility of government and civil society. The effects of our history on the fabric of our society have been so profound that it will take us efforts of all sectors to build a stronger education system. Hence, this makes it beneficial for the education of Indian students for the government to partner with the private system. Broadly, PPP in education can operate to provide infrastructural support services and educational services. The simplest being one in which private partner provides infrastructure services, but government provides the educational and support services. The next one in which private sector provides both infrastructural services and support services, and government provides education services. And the third one being where private sector provides infrastructure support and educational services together with the government. IT services are being provided in several government schools in states like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh by private partners who set up their entire hardware infrastructure along with facility management. The PPP arrangement can help to extend the reach of the government system to provide children access to schools, get private operators to manage school qualities, thereby helping government effectively utilizing the existing infrastructure. Major cities such as Mumbai, Chennai, Pune, and Ahmedabad have experienced up to 25% decline in enrollment in government schools, leading to underutilized infrastructure. This can be set right to PPPs. Private operators can introduce innovative school management techniques to create models of excellence within the government system. This can set the context for a similar exercise in the education services under the PPP model. While the end of the objective is not certainly monetization, it can unlock the hidden value of delivering better education services to the 200 million children of India who attend government schools by better utilization of government-owned infrastructure of more than 1.2 million schools. Another important benefit of PPP is its reduces the government budgets and budget deficit.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Are there any questions for Vinay Tendulkar? Okay, I'll be recognizing couples. Over to you, sir.
Yes. My question is that the PPP model after being enforced and it being implemented, it will be very beneficial. But before that, a very initial stage after the commercial operations date, most of the private players tend to exit due to a lot of reasons if they find it to be not profitable. So when they leave the project, and most of the public sector undertaking banks which provide loan to them are left hanging over with the stressed loans. So after eventually the taxpayers of the country have to recapitalize the burden which the government is facing due to the public sector, due to the loans which are not paid off by the private sector banks. So what does the government plan on actually regulating it?
Can you condense your question?
Sure. Since after the commercial operation dates, if the private players find it unprofitable, they leave the project. So the lenders are left. The lenders are mostly the public sector undertaking banks who are left hanging with stressed loans. So how does the government plan on regulating the private players when they are entering into a contract? Because most of the PPPs are contracts, and that's what my question is. I hope you got the context of the question.
I would like to answer your question.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Moving on to the next speaker, we have Venugopal. Mr. P.C. Venugopal, over to you.
Hello.
Yes,
Am I
sir.
audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So we have talked enough about the positive impacts, but what about the challenges that PPE model faces in terms of education? PP face significant implementation challenges, such as inefficient or delayed financial reimbursement and capacity bottleneck of the provider to train or hire high quality teachers and school principals. They also face ecosystem challenges, such as shortage of qualified operators and ineffective policies to guide implementation. PP policies will be ineffective if they face significant implementation challenges such as insufficient and delay in financial reimbursement. So the school management model of PPP implementation specifically faces the risk of opposition from the teachers union when it takes over a government school. In addition, the school adoption model faces a challenge of limited autonomy in introducing innovations in the school. The whole school PPP model faces several system challenges too, which hampers successful implementation. Shortage of quality operators, limited in conducive PPP policy, perception management of different stakeholders, and absence of an ecosystem enabler to facilitate implementation. Therefore, I believe that effective PPPs require a thriving ecosystem of private sector entities interested in innovating within the public system and government willing to cede operational control while enforcing strict accountability standards. Thank you.
All right, so points on. Are there any questions? Okay, so I'll be recognizing. Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Ma'am, could the representative please repeat when he said about the school adoption model faces a lack of autonomy? Did he mean lack of autonomy on the government's part or lack of autonomy on the private players' part?
Okay, I'll repeat that part. I said the school adoption model faces the challenge of limited autonomy in introducing innovations in the school. Is that the point you wanted me to repeat?
Autonomy on the part of the government or on the part of the private player?
Oh, Piyush, so could you please ask this as a question and not as a point of person? Because I think the point was clear. Yeah. Okay, I'll be recognizing Shri Narayan Rane for the question.
Thank you, ma'am. So I would like to pose this question to Sir Venugopal. Sir here always encapsulates only the disadvantages on the topic. He often overlooks the advantages and hence he tends to miss out on the ironies, often in Rajasthan itself. So let me elaborate. The RPSC recruits teachers without any interviews, which checks the moral values and integrity of a person, which is completely lacking, sir. RPSC vacancies do not continue every year. So every aspirant teacher lacks confidence to educate the society. So they turn towards other jobs. And hence there is a problem in the education sector in Rajasthan itself. Look at the irony, sir. How do you justify this?
Can I answer?
Sure, sir.
So talking about PPP models here, do you believe that giving control of the education, the framing the mindset of the youth as the fact of a matter is should be given to someone private? And secondly,
Meanwhile, I would like to inform ma'am that I had asked it about the RPSC and not how the stance of Sir represents PPP. There is no clear clarity.
Okay, so we have more question. Sir Casey Venugopal, are you willing to answer?
Yes, sorry, actually my network got lost. So we are lacking in terms of teachers. If you see the literacy rate of India, we are trying our level best to inculcate educated individual in the education system. But if you look at the many of the BJP government members, be it any members, they are sending their children abroad. And why don't you look at yourself and try to spread this awareness message that people who acquire this level of education come back to India and provide those kind of benefits so that they are more interested in pursuing such jobs. And
Free to
and okay, go
ma'am,
ahead.
free to follow up.
Yes.
Yes. So again, Sir KC Venugopal, you are completely, deflecting the question like you've always done that. But let's talk about that later on. I have only posed one concept to you, and one concept only, as per how the RPSC recruits teachers and how there is a lack in the moral checks that must be considered. There is also no vacancies every year. So this is a part of what is going wrong with how Rajasthan manages its education system. What do you have to say about that? That's the irony here, sir. Please reply to my question and do not deflect it to other
Sir,
points that do not even.
sir, don't talk to me about deflecting. Your party is the one
Sir,
that don't have even a single press conference.
please follow some parliament procedures.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. KC Venugopal, do you have an answer to that?
Yeah, sir.
Yeah,
Ma'am,
please be concise and please go.
you're talking about deflecting, but your party is the one deflecting the questions left and right, not holding a single press conference. And when we try to hold you accountable by stating facts, you just turn up and question us. So I don't believe I owe you any explanation as such, and we are trying our level best if you look at it. Your
Ma'am, this hurts the sentiments of the party. This is very wrong. I hope you are taking
not very long. Move on.
Yeah. Moving on to the next speaker, we have Vivek Thakur.
1 second, Tanaya. Yes, Nirmala Sitharaman.
Are we entertaining a question to Mr. KC Venugopal?
Tanaya, your call.
No, sir. We have already taken one. Yeah, thank you so much. All right. The next speaker is Vivek Thakur. Over to you, sir.
Tanaya, please note that Vivek Thakur's mic is not working.
All right, then we'll be moving on to our last speaker, which is Ashok Bajpai. Over to you, sir. Mr. Ashok Bajpai, are you there in the committee?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, for recognition. There is a fashionable slogan in the development strategies, particularly during the last couple of decades in many developing as well as advanced countries. The public-private partnership has been the latest mantra of development. Well-designed 3Ps can create models of innovations for the school system in India. Various governments at the central, state, and local levels are exploring and implementing PPPs in education. Three primary reasons that governments are exploring these partnerships include increasing access to school, as access at the elementary level has become nearly universal. The focus in the education system is now shifting towards the increasing quality outcomes. PPPs can extend the reach of the government system to provide children access to schools. Using underutilized school infrastructure across India, major metropolitan areas such as Mumbai, Chennai, Pune, and Ahmedabad have experienced up to 25% decline in enrollment in government schools over the past 10 years, and simultaneously their budgets have almost doubled. These trends have resulted in hollowing out of government schools. By getting private operators to manage high-quality schools in these empty buildings, government can effectively utilize existing infrastructure. Improving the quality of education, the government school system urgently needs improvement. Through PPP, private operators can introduce innovative pedagogical and school management techniques to create models of excellence within the government system. Instead of encouraging philanthropy and inculcating sense of social responsibility in the private sectors, the government is inviting it to do normal business in education with huge government subsidies, perhaps including in the upper primary education and secondary school, which come under the scope of Right to Education Act that promises free and compulsory elementary education. The need to create a robust PPP ecosystem for operators, government, and philanthropists to share learning and innovation pathways. This ecosystem is vital to ensure that PPPs are financially viable, operationally effective, and fulfill their promise of introducing critical quality into the Indian education system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashok Bajpai. All right. So, are there any questions for Mr. Ashok Bajpai? Okay, so we'll be taking it from Mallikarjun Kharge. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. मेरा सवाल अशोक जी से ये है कि एनईपी में बात करी गई है कि 6% of the GDP will be invested into the education sector. And I just wanted to know, because ऐसा हो नहीं सकता कि एक दिन एक फाइनेंशियल ईयर गवर्नमेंट जागे और 6% इन्वेस्ट हो जाए. तो कितना अभी तक प्रोग्रेस हुआ है, कितना वो अर्लियर इन्वेस्टमेंट से अब बढ़ चुका है, और कितने आगे क्या प्लान है गवर्नमेंट का इन्वेस्ट करने का?
Can I answer via chat?
Sure, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Is Vivek Thakur in the committee?
He has refused to speak.
Okay. Mihir sir, shall we recognize one more speaker?
Yeah, let's have one speaker to replace him.
All right. So, speakers wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none.
Yeah, we move on then. We've exhausted the list, right?
Yes, we have exhausted.
Okay. Yes, Hardeep Singh Puri.
Sir, I have a motion.
Informally tell me what the motion is.
We want the lunch to be extended by 30 minutes. Like it should start by 2:30 if that's okay.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I thought you were saying till 3 o'clock. 2:30 is less.
No, like it's 1 hour, right?
Yeah, we'll give you 1 hour
3
for sure.
o'clock, please. Thank you.
No. I
Would be
guess then
very gracious of you.
Adila, recording बंद कर दो.